Hey, Juniper. Okay, well, it's Friday evening. This is, or whatever time it is for you, wherever you are, but this is our Friday evening stream. Imra will be joining us later. We just got through watching Christopher Guest movie for your consideration, and anyone's invited to come on and talk about whatever they want.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did TCPS say he was starting his stream?
I think it's on now. I'm just about to check. Jack Talcott's on. Let me see who's on there. I thought he said it was going to be like, if he does it. Yeah, now. Here's Joe. Hey, Joe.
Hey, Joe.
Hey.
What's up?
Oh, well, I guess we're talking about the movie, right?
We can, or whatever else you want.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen it a few times before. I don't have a lot to say about it. I think it's a pretty good, funny movie. It holds up pretty well, but
I don't know if it's a movie you could really talk much about.
Yeah,
you either saw it or you didn't, because it was so much little subtle humor and inside joke. They didn't really have a plot. I mean, there's not much.
Yeah.
With so much you can analyze without having the jokes in front of you and breaking them down.
Yeah, and there were some jokes in there that I feel like it had some moments. I didn't feel it was a particularly exciting film, and I had mentioned this, in Discord. I feel like a lot of it would be entertaining if you're a Hollywood insider, so if you're like in on the joke. But if you're not in that world, then it's a very different type of experience.
I'm not in that world, although I did live in Hollywood for a few months.
Now, I think one thing that was interesting about it is just looking at the cast. It is sort of a transitory film. So there's a lot of the main roles are from like the previous generation of prominent actors and actresses in there. So it would have been, I think, names more familiar to my parents, and a lot of the minor roles or the bit roles were filled by people who today are much more prominent celebrities.
So it could be generational too.
Yeah,
this is like your dad's.
So like John Krasinski has a very minor role in this, and this would have been like right as The Office is premiering that this film came out. That dude, I don't remember his name right off the back. It's like Simon something. One of the main actors from The Big Bang Theory, which again would air not long, but like after this came out, and so it's sort of like setting pieces up for people who are like on the road to becoming more famous, and today are more staple names in TV and film.
Yeah, I can see that. If someone asked me for an exciting movie to watch, I would not point them to that one.
Yeah. And probably the most interesting person in it was Catherine O'Hara's character.
Yeah, I think she did such a good job.
It really is her movie. It's probably amongst all the Christopher Guest, from Waiting for Guffman to Best in Show to Mighty Wind to this one. It's probably I like it because I like all of his movies, but I mean it's my least favorite probably of the four. But
it's my most favorite.
It's just it's the least like laugh out loud funny to me. But
oh my god, I was laughing the whole time out loud.
Well, I mean, that's fine. I'm not saying it's bad either. It's kind of like an arbitrary, like if I had to rank them kind of thing. I just like it's the one but I've still watched it. Like I think this is probably the 7th time I've seen it. So I've watched it quite a few times.
I've only seen Mascots once. I need to
I've never
rewatch
seen
that.
that. Mascots?
That's the one he did after. That was the last one he did before he did that TV show.
I never saw that. I didn't even know that one happened.
Oh, we should watch it then. Maybe next time we do a movie. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. I never even knew that one existed.
Yeah, it's
Mighty
nice.
Wind is kind of. I thought that one was the one that surprised me because it ends up having a really like kind of emotional ending to it. Like it's so silly and
I think that's the one I like the least.
Really. Like,
Except for Eugene, that's the one I like the least. It was the least funny, except for Eugene Levy's character.
It is. I was just surprised by how much of an emotional core it ended up having. The romance between the two characters was actually effective, and usually instead of it being like a kind of a satire type thing, I thought it was all right. I don't think it wasn't as funny as the rest of them though. It was just it ended up having something a more of a core of something to kind of grab onto for character wise. But yeah, I don't know. I like all of his movies. I like I said before. I like the work he did with Rob Reiner. I love This Is Spinal Tap. I love and Princess Bride is probably one of my top 10 all time favorite films. So I think Princess Bride's like one of the most perfect scripts ever written, and one of the most well executed perfect scripts ever written too. I mean, there's a lot of like scripts that are great that don't get executed that well, but like that script is just perfectly executed all the way through. Was it William Goldsman or whatever his name was? He and the novel. He even wrote a novel that precedes it and stuff. That the actual book that Peter Falk character is reading to the boy is actually a book that he wrote, and like so it's like this. There's like these little meta layers to it. It's pretty cool. Big fan of it. I think it's got some of the best one-liners in all of movie history.
Yeah, I like it. It's a classic. I have it on DVD somewhere.
I
Joe,
mean,
go ahead.
no, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, how do you talk without knowing what you were going to say?
It's just like whenever I don't know, I forget really easily. It's really easy. It just gets knocked out of my mind. My short-term memory is really bad.
Oh, so you did know what you were going to say.
Having a child will do that.
It.
Yeah, I did whenever I was starting to say it, but then as soon as like it got there's a distraction moment, and like it just went away.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that I could understand. I had something to talk to Joe about, but I don't remember what it was. Was it something we were talking about on here?
Did it have to do with the film?
No, I think we were talking about
probably the community.
Yeah, the community, the network type thing we're trying to do is see if like.
One thing I'm trying to make this stream more IDW oriented instead of.
Okay.
Like what would you call the other sphere that were part of the truthers or the conspiracy theorists?
Okay, so has this? I mean, what would you say has usually been like your audience in mind when you do these sorts of streams? Because again, I've kind of gotten more acquainted with the likes of you and other folks in Paul's crowd. So
I'm looking for
quite pin everybody down. And
yeah, that was my audience had in mind. People that like we used to do on Ron's server and Paul's show and
like contrarian folks.
Not necessarily contrarian. I like having intellectual conversations.
Okay, and I guess it's generically IDW. Like, I mean, IDW does entail a lot of kind of conspiracy-minded folks, because to the extent that, to the extent that, like, right? Because like, think about like why and it was Eric Weinstein who coined the term, and so like, why did he say like an intellectual dark web? Right? It's sort of like it's just sort of getting out of the exterior mainstream. I mean, getting into the exterior, like so away from the mainstream, so that you can have conversations that aren't being influenced or controlled by, say, elites or whoever they may be. And so elites, of course, can be a very expandable term depending on who you count, right? It can include Democrats, Republicans, both at the same time, and various different political groups or media groups. Sometimes it just depends on who you're asking. So, and then of course, for people who aren't
like controlled by the elites, when you say like conversations that are not controlled by the elites, what do you mean by controlled?
I think it's a variety of things. Like obviously, like there's this idea that the flow of information is controlled as far as like what kind of stories a bunch of, say, news stations agree to run, or what kind of people they allow to interview, what kind of content is allowed to be up or remain up on maybe video hosting platforms like YouTube, and how likely certain posts are to be removed or accounts suspended due to things like accusations of misinformation. Some of these things can be done within reason, and where the elites, as we call them, have every reason to exert the control that they do. And then there are times where it's either misguided due to improperly looking at the situation. Like sometimes people get kicked off of a platform or something of that nature due to something that isn't true or that is heavily embellished. And then there are times where it's maybe it's like there's a profit motive in mind, where so example, like Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and Twitch, and so how likely are these, if there's, say, criticism of Amazon as a company on these platforms, right? If anyone has anything bad to say about it, is there potential for him to flex his authority, maybe clamp down on that? Some people get worried about that. I think more so with the Washington Post, but or maybe the Washington Post's tendency to speak more favorably about Amazon in its reporting. I'm not necessarily saying like one way or another which one is, because again, I try to be more open-minded about it, but the potential for that exists there. There's probably been cases where it's happened, depending on who you're looking at. And so part of the concept of the IDW is just to have this independent space so that people who have the money and the power don't use it in a way that's to your disadvantage, and that you can speak more freely on the topics that you want to discuss.
I don't watch news. I don't read any newspapers. All of my news comes from mostly Twitter, social media, blogs, commentators, YouTube videos. I've never felt like I couldn't have a conversation about anything I wanted to. So I'm wondering how all of that fits into the IDW. Like I don't need I thought IDW is more like theme or content related and principle, like based on certain principles of free speech. And
yeah, I mean that's sort of,
that's to draw a certain like level of inquires into the truth, but not necessarily because the Washington Post was putting out certain stories, because there's 100 other sources. Like I don't need to rely on the Washington Post to tell me what's going on about the world. And so I don't feel like my information stream is necessarily being controlled or hampering my ability to have conversations. I just like going deeper into the conversations than a lot of other people seem to be. And that's what I associate with IDW.
No, that's part of it as well. So like, for example, maybe this is an example of the way information or narratives get controlled. And maybe it's just what works with the existing business models these companies have, like media companies, is that like a lot of conversation on an issue is going to be what can fit into a 5 to 10 minute window usually, right? So part of the interest, like, and this I think gets to more where you've said it's content oriented, is that it's much easier for like an independent source to do like a long form kind of discussion, like a podcast, So something like Joe Rogan show, Dave Rubin show, those sorts of folks, and then other folks since then, like Lex Friedman. A lot of people have a podcast now to have a very long discussion about something. And since a lot of these folks are user driven, they're not worried about like an advertiser pulling sponsorship or whatever. They're not going to like self-censor as they go through it. They're going to have a natural conversation based on just what they think is interesting. They're not going to worry if sort of a potentially controversial thing to do, right? So even if like consciously within mainstream corporate media, decisions aren't being made to silence something, there are a lot of incentives that deter people, right, from discussing things more openly, and so that really does get to like part of what the IDW is. And so I would say, of course, like it really depends on how bad you think, so the centralization, because most of the ownership and wealth of the country is concentrated within a small number of people. It really depends on your own interpretation of that, like how often it's abused. Just so we look at it as it concerns media, information, narratives, current events. People have different opinions on that. Some people think it's just bad incentives, and that's about as far as it goes. Some people think that there's vast inter-corporate conspiracies, basically. And so those are the sort of folks that...
Information has never been more decentralized. In my
I would agree that's true in a lot of ways. Like there are a lot of... The internet makes a lot of things that are essentially opposites, like simultaneously true, just because of all the possibilities it creates. Right? So it's like the internet is used for more speech, but the internet is also a tool for suppression, right? Like look at how China is using the internet with the way it has its social media, and it uses to create social credit, right? So it's more liberating while also more restrictive. Right, so you can have an opinion, pretty much say what you want, and put it on the internet, and it's hard for people to stop you. But then 20 years later, if people decide that it's controversial and you've more than changed your mind on it, it'll still be held against you. There's a lot of things happening at once. And so I think part of what makes people respond so differently to things is like just given all the variety of the ways that we could even say that maybe this is just part of what the IDW is. It's like after we had broadband internet for a little over a decade, and we'll say a lot of these social bubbles built up and started to burst. The social bubbles being like we as a society don't really know how to modify our behavior relative to how quickly the internet developed. We realize there's just a lot of things going on where we don't know what's a wise or a correct or a decent behavior. There's a lot that can lead to a lot of hostility. And I think the IDW is kind of, in some ways, an acknowledgement of that.
Like it, I don't feel like my behavior's changed much at all because of the internet.
No, that's the thing. It's our behaviors haven't really changed, but we suddenly had this internet, and so when we take on something that's very transformative, but we plug in behaviors that are maybe things that the way we act, that we do and talk and think, that might make more sense, in a local basis, like with folks in your hometown.
Damn it, I'm either losing signal or you're losing. I didn't catch the last 5 seconds of what you said. My signal was doing.
Okay, yeah, I was saying, I think what's different with like the internet is that a lot of our old behaviors, like that might have been more normal in like a smaller, more local context, like with members of our own community. When we act those out on the internet, like when we're acting out like public outrage at the scale of hundreds of millions of people, it has very different results. So our behaviors are different, but they're channeled and magnified and directed in a way that the results of them are much different than if it was just more localized types of responses to the thing. And I don't think we're acting as though we're in a smaller community than we are when we engage in online behavior. I think that's part of why we see like an increase in hostile like political culture. It's like a lot of rage bait article headlines can get shared and spread quickly without really a lot of due diligence or people verifying any of the thing in them. And it's just it's a very reactive way to behave, right? And so in real life we can be more reactive, but we in real life we're often dealing with people face to face, so we take a lot more things into consideration. And it's sort of we're not responding to people in quite the same way we would online as we would in person.
Yeah, Ron and I were talking about this last night. I have noticed, like I get in a lot of Twitter fights that I feel like would not happen.
Yeah, and it
are face to face. And I've been.
It doesn't even have to be this, like politics. It could be any topic.
Anything. Yeah, I've been kicked out of or had to leave like forum-based communities, like Reddit type communities, because of textual conflict that would not happen if we were having a face-to-face dialogue, even on Zoom or video. So there is something about the medium of text only that does lead to like odd interpretations, escalated conflict. I've experienced that myself many times. Right.
So like, and a good example, like I can find one. This happened in the investing Discord server. So if you go to the investing subreddit, R Investing, there's a Discord link there. And I decided to like post, hold on, let me fucking find it. I'll like post some screen caps here for context. So I'm gonna do it in the Center Holds Discord. Wait, can I post a screen chat in our private chat here?
Share it here if you want.
Okay. Okay, I'm trying to paste it.
Be in public.
Oh, I don't know. So if I were to like paste like a screen clip that I took, would it show in the
You can share your screen and then
you put a link to it. You put a link to it, but it won't show up on the in the chat now.
Unless you pull up on your screen and you present and share your screen.
No, you can share your screen if you want.
Okay. Is it present? Okay. Okay, let me share screen. Select window or screen. And I guess I want to share Discord. Allow. Okay, so so you see this right here? I've never used this stream before, but do you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so I posted this as a joke because again, this is the investing server. If you don't know, Bumble, which is a dating app, is a publicly traded company. So not all dating apps are, but if you wanted to be an owner of Bumble, you could buy shares of BMBL, which is the common stock for the company. So
real quick, is this a private server?
No, you can go into
It's showing the people's names. I don't know if they want that.
It's interesting. It doesn't normally do that, but I mean, this is public. Like people can go in, click here through Reddit, and join all the time. There are people flooding in every day.
Anybody can see this information if they want it.
Yeah, and I'm the only one who uses my name anyway, so like I'm the only one who's getting exposed here. And so yeah, but if you look here, like I talk about like how the experience I had with the speed dating feature on Bumble Thursday night, which goes from 7 to 8 every time they do it. So this is me coming here right afterward. How it was kind of disappointing. And then I joked that it's not good for shareholders. Huh?
Looking for someone to buy her thing.
Oh,
what's her thing?
I meant to put things. I think I missed the S.
To buy her things. Oh,
Yes.
okay. Like
Yeah,
to
so-
take her to the Cheesecake Factory.
Basically, yeah. And so those are the three chats I got during the speed dating. And so I summarized it there. I joke, not good news for owners of BMBL. Expect a sell-off in the morning.
Oh,
Now,
because you have stock in Bumble.
Well, I'm implying that because I have had a bad experience and I'm telling everyone about it, the stock is going to crash. It's just a joke. It's funnier in this server because that's the kind of humor we have, right? Now, if you look at the reacts, most of these are getting the joke. It's just Pepe stuff. They're meme reacts, but this is the guy who doesn't get it, and it's like the inevitable person. I ended up blocking him because he proved to be annoying. He says, by the way, we have a relationships thread. He links to the channel that's on here somewhere about relationships. And it's just like, I'm making a joke. I'm not being like, hey guys, let's talk about dating. So I explained that to him, right? And I explain, I'm not looking for a prolonged conversation. I give my thoughts on what there is to discuss on dating, and I'm like, then that's it. It's just I don't overcomplicate it. And then he says, I mean, if you're implying nothing you do affects that, well, that's obviously false. Which I don't know why he's thinking that, because I didn't imply that. I didn't imply anything in this, in fact. I said, I'm not looking for prolonged conversation. It's not a deep topic. Women either like a man or they don't. And you stumble through life until you run into one that likes you, or you die before that happens. End of topic. No implication here. It's just, I'm very concise in what I think. All right. But I also know that this is the internet, right? So this is not human beings. So why is he doing this? Because he's in internet debate mode and he's just looking for something to argue about.
Yeah.
So I point out, well, you could just ask me to elaborate better instead of pouncing on a chance to call a person's opinion obviously false. And then, where's his next reply? Okay. He says, okay, what were you implying then? And since I wasn't implying anything, I just said nothing. And then he said, well, he did that. And then he said, okay, so you're just typing meaningless words. Great, thanks. Okay. Now, the reason I bring it up, because again, we're going by what's something specific to the internet. This Benjamin guy, I don't even know if that's his real name. But I bet you if we met in person, even if maybe he's actually kind of obtuse and he just really had no way of understanding. But I feel like this would have been much less likely to happen if I had met him in person, right? Yeah. This is the kind of interaction that I really only have with somebody on the internet where, again, not political. So it's not like I tapped into somebody's culture war sensibilities, right? This is completely different. And that's how that ended up going. And I could probably go back, through any community and eventually find a scenario like this where, people actually, no, I mean, even when we're just talking about investing, people can be really bad about not engaging well and using the conversation as an opportunity to talk at somebody and prove how smart they are. That's actually really common in that server. I have pretty mixed feelings about that community, but there are a few good people there that are good for discussing investments. And I feel like in person, if you act that way, you're much more likely to not get invited to things anymore and things of that nature. So people tend to watch their mouths a bit more. But online, very different.
Yeah, that's a great example. I've gotten in arguments like that before too.
Ones where you were the target?
Oh, yeah, usually.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it might be me keeping it going, but it is something that I think happens in text that wouldn't necessarily happen in person, because we would be able to quickly adjust, figure out what was going on and adjust.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of stuff with the internet, the behaviors that merging with the technology of the internet, which is really just text based, because I'm sure this stuff happened in letters and writing and stuff beforehand.
Yeah, and like it can be really bad in other ways too, because like that server in particular, I mean, you got to figure one, internet is often mostly just dudes, um, wherever you go, right? Like Reddit, Discord, the uh, classic like online forums of the aughts, YouTube comment section. You're usually talking to dudes, um, and um, and then there are some communities that narrow it further, right? So if it's an investing Discord, like whether you're online or not, if you're like in an investing like a school course, how many women are going to be there, right? Like how many are going to want to show up? It's not very many. But at least in real life, um, it's easier for the handful of women that do want to show up to those things to do so and participate. But what I've noticed in this server a lot is that if a woman shows up and she just simply does something to indicate the fact that she is a woman, such as have a feminine username and a feminine profile picture, maybe her own like picture, like I use on Discord, I use my own face and my own name. You do the same, Jeff. So some people do that, but nobody is suspicious of me, right? It's my name, my face. It's just, oh, it's Joe, right? But if she joins the server, they're immediately skeptical, especially if she happens to be a pretty girl. And they assume she's some sort of dude or scammer in disguise.
Oh, they don't even believe she's a real woman, like a person?
They don't. And I have seen it, and they will dogpile those folks. And like when I'm talking to them, and here's the thing, like I'm noticing things about the way maybe she's talking about an investment or whatever that make it obvious to me like she's for real. She's actually trying to hear to do that, but it's just so much of like this kind of paranoid, boorish boys club that they don't pay attention to those things, and it's part of a broader function. Like that's, I'm not making this like a man-woman thing, but like people lose their ability to be active listeners and to notice details online because they don't humanize each other nearly as much.
Well, a lot of that I think comes from just like the ineloquence of the way that our texting culture has evolved in terms of the way we write. I mean, if you look at like Jeff Richmond, like letter writing back in the day, but think about like the way that people used to write letters, the flowery speech, they were very explicit in everything they would say in a letter. Everything was written out to be very explicit about the intent and the meaning. Whereas in texting is all about emojis and all those things. And so you're almost required to infer certain things from text. You're required to try to like translate it into something, and then once you leave something open to interpretation like that, people project their own shit onto it. So yeah. It's like too much of a blank text. Text has become too much of a blank slate to properly communicate things because, I mean, even everything from just a lack of punctuation. The fact we don't use punctuation very much can lead to that. I mean, punctuation actually has an importance in communicating things through text because it indicates like stops and just all sorts of like. Just like the patterns of speech that they're using, and not to mention the fact that people they've never figured out how to properly convey sarcasm through text alone.
There's that too. Actually, it's kind of a shame Emerald isn't here because I would have liked to have known her thoughts on that scenario I described. I guess
she's supposed to show up, so
she's supposed to. But she's under no obligation to, right?
Yeah, but she usually does.
No, she's contractually obligated. If she's not here, there's going to be. I was kidding.
Okay, but and like here's another example. I'll go ahead and share my screen again, and this is even like a softer version. So the guy I'm about to bring up, I actually like him. He and I are buddies, but it's just even when people aren't malicious. I think the things about the internet cause people to get stuck in their own head and not really like think about like how am I talking to this other person. So
but now that I think about it, even in person or like face to face, this happens too. Ron and I had little moments where we got into these tangles that we were not interpreting each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, like so. I think the more that there's like. Maybe a natural distance between folks. I don't mean like physical, but I mean like try to start a conversation between an evangelical Christian and a devout Muslim, and see how much they're not going to understand each other well right off the bat, for example, right? Or a Protestant and a Catholic, a couple hundred years ago kind of thing. And so we're present, share screen, and okay, so, and again, this is a software example. So this guy here, Helter Skelter, says, "Hey guys, so I'd like to get to a point where I can invest in a single company with confidence, but I'm really not sure where to start with understanding how to go about that. I don't want to take someone's recommendation online, as those people are often already vested and have a better position than the people they're advertising to. What resources would you recommend for finding your own companies? What resources would you teach me how to do my own DD in a thorough way? I really like seeing the conversation in the thread, but so much of it goes over my head. I want to invest with conviction." All right, great question. So I'll just read like the first paragraph because I think of each, so I think it'll explain it. So I write this. "So I would first say this: understand what a business is. It's an entity that produces cash flow by selling a product for more than it costs to develop it. Its value is determined entirely by that and nothing else. If other investors misunderstand a business that you understand, that is where you can have opportunities to buy and sell successfully." This guy says, "I would suggest normalization of market concentration drawdown risk via investing in 75 to 80% index funds and 20 to 25% common stock of a company or companies that you're interested in and have studied the fundamentals and qualitatives of. I would be remiss if I invested 100% of my portfolio in a single common stock of a company, as the risk here would cause me great mental distress and anxiety, debilitatingly so." Now, this, especially like the first part here, is gobbledygook.
I feel like I'm on the CNN Money channel.
He's not really responding to the essence of his question. The guy's like, "I want to know how to look at a specific individual stock and invest in it with confidence." Now, and I happen to know this guy. He is a very anxious person. Okay.
Gothic serpent.
Yeah. So he himself cannot handle being invested too much in individual companies. Most of him is invested and diversified into funds of stocks and bonds. And he gets too nervous about individual companies. He doesn't have confidence in that. It's just psychologically, there's not really like a, like, even if you could like show him all the facts, like, here is why this is an amazing business and why you're buying shares of it for a steal right now, and why the downside risk is almost zero and the upside risk is just through the roof. You just gotta wait a couple years for the business to get to that point in its development, right? You can lay out all the facts. You can make the strongest case for an individual stock that anyone's ever made, stronger than any case Warren Buffett could have ever made. Okay, I'm talking this good of an investment thesis, right? It would not work on him. That's just how intrinsically nervous he is about certain types of investing. And so a lot of his response here is not so much advice or information or guidance to this Helter Skelter guy. It's really just him reiterating what he finds assuring. And, so he's not using it as an opportunity really to put him down or to feel smart, but he is kind of just singing his own tune here. Now, some people will do this and then they'll try to make you look like an idiot and mock you and laugh at you while they do it. There's a lot of that kind of this. There's a frat boy element to the response you might get from something on here. That's part of why we actually have an individual thread for individual companies instead of just talking about them in the main investing channel, because people hate talking about individual companies there. And I kind of just talk about it in very plain terms, and I don't really try to use a bunch of crazy language. And I also I even have points where I say makes sense so far. I wait for him to reply, and then let me see again. And then there's another point where I'm there's no time. I'm you still following me or whatever? And I just noticed nobody ever does it. Somebody will like ask a question and people just like it's like their autistic investing manifesto just comes out, just boom, 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 boom for minutes and minutes, and they just can't get off it. And it doesn't even really matter what the question is. Like they'll almost do, let's say, the same thing in response to any question, and they just don't adapt to what anyone says. And a lot of these people who do this think of themselves as pretty reasonable investors, even though they can't really adapt what they say to what people are asking. It's just a lot of weird stuff. And again, I feel like in real life, these kinds of things are not nearly as common because it's hard to be stuck in your own head when, again, the person is like right there in front of you. But anyway, I think I've made my point about like just how this kind of behavior can just really be so natural for some folks online in a way that it wouldn't be in person.
And the internet is not known for its social skills. Like it probably draws more
Right.
autistic
And that dude is
socialized people.
Yeah, and that dude I would say is kind of more. I don't know if he's autistic or something, but like, we'll just say he's atypical. It's just I've talked to him in voice chat, and so he's just, if he's not autistic, he was probably at least one of the maybe awkward nerdy kids in school or something, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way because I mean some of the folks were my friends, but I'm just saying like I know the personality type, right?
I think that Helter Skelter Real Estate sounds like a hilarious company that sells like compounds to crazy people. That's the only thing I can really do with that.
Yeah, I don't. I don't look into it. So the real estate is indicating that like the type of investing he prefers is real estate. So
I know I got that from it. I just kept seeing it. I kept thinking Helter Skelter Real Estate. I just kept imagining this guy like trying to sell like like bearded crazy people like compounds they could run their cults on. But yeah. So these people are investing money. Is that right? That's what they're doing.
Yeah. So it's the investing Discord. Oh wait. Okay. I thought maybe the concept of the server had alluded to at some point. Like maybe
they're investing this money thing. Can you explain what that is and how I can get like lots of it? That's what I was gonna make a joke. That's all.
For all I knew,
you have to give them something to invest.
Maybe my sound I had defined the server and you just missed it. Yeah.
I'm just so.
But yeah, like no, people are putting up their actual money. Sometimes everything they have.
I've never had any money to invest in anything, so I don't even have the slightest idea of like what. The only time I ever even came close to a stock was when there was like Amazon gave me a stock after working there for 4 years.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's and what's interesting is like I have an interesting relationship with that server because since I have had a tendency to be like, when people ask a question, I'll give a partial answer, but then I'll say, could you tell me a bit more? Help me understand more what you're really asking. My tendency to do that, like they have a thing on there where if you're on the server long enough and you make good enough contributions, they'll like talk about it with like the existing community, and you'll be given like a role called regular in there. Once you have a regular role, you can see all the other channels, and that basically it's like a role they give once they know that you're a good fit and you're not like full of shit. And they have a standard where you have to be there in the server at least 30 days before you could be considered for it. And pretty much on my 30th day, and I didn't even know this was a thing. They nominated me quietly, and decided.
Lost you there.
Oh, that was him. I thought it was mine because my connection's been going out.
Do that.
Your connections.
Yeah, last thing, just repeat the last thing.
Okay, yeah.
Froze up.
So the last thing I was saying is like there's a role they have there called regular. You have to be on the server at least 30 days to get it. At least that doesn't mean you'll get it then for months or a year before they get it. Basically, you have to be there long enough, show that you fit in well, and show that you contribute well enough for somebody to basically. Other regulars will suggest that you get the role. Moderators will discuss it, and they'll give it to you. You can see a lot more channels once you have the regular role. You guys not hearing me still?
I hear you fine, yeah. I hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, I wonder if Jeff
Can you hear
is.
me?
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Chris. I wonder if Jeff's having the
I
problem.
think that's on my signal, getting the signal icon.
Okay.
Can
So,
you hear
like,
me? Can you hear me? Jeff?
yeah, I hear you, Chris. I hear you.
I just
And
didn't know
so-
if Jeff could hear me.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, I
what
can.
I think was interesting about that is like when I made a point of still acting like a human being in my conversations with folks, and was really consistent about it. It stood out, and it shows that like if you make a point of doing this, you can be appreciated for it. And so I don't really use the channels that are available to regulars much. But it was just interesting that they took so well to my tendency to do that when I talk about investing with folks, and that like it just that it stood out for me to do that, to act like I would in person with folks, just on Discord in the way I communicate. Let people sort of have their half of the conversation. I think kind of shows how unnecessarily lacking it is the way we do conversations. Now, on the other hand, though,
Yeah, that's
Jeff,
a good point.
yeah. So it's like, I mean, like one person even described it as, like, I think he said, "fucking speed run to reg," which is what they call the regular roll, because I literally got it on my 30th day there, and it's just I don't know that that's ever happened with folks. And now the other thing too is like, since I do individual stocks, there's some folks there who don't like me very much because all they do is invest in funds, and they hate just any conversation about individual stocks. And some of it is because they think that people who talk about individual stocks, they're joining the server to like pump and dump, some kind of scam or whatever. And it's similar to the way they react to users who appear to be women. And often rather are women, and they're just guilty of being a woman or something.
So that affects
yeah.
people's communication by the assumptions they make about the person on the other end of the anonymous screen name.
Yeah. And some people were initially suspicious even of me when I joined, just because, again, like they talk about like they use a lot of talk that is only sensible to people who invest in funds. You saw a bit of it with what that guy, that other guy who replied to Helter Skelter said. And that just it's language that I don't use, and I just say like, and I'll even tell them, "Hey, thanks for the reply. That just isn't part of how I invest. It's just not something I'm really worried about." And they'll be like, "What? How could you not take my answer?" And
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of jargon there that, like, I mean, just in general, I didn't understand most of it, but I did definitely I understand what your answer definitely was much clearer. But I mean, yeah, that's true on any kind of like anything like that. I mean, like people in general, I think even in person, they're more likely to, but still on the internet, people are even less likely to assume good intentions or assume good faith on the part of who they're talking to, in more cases. Which is I mean, it's not the way I always make it a rule to always at least initially to assume good intentions, assume good faith in the part of who I'm talking to, especially the first time meeting them. But
and there's also like well, like Jordan Peterson, I think this was rule 2. Excuse me. Of his 12 rules, it was like always assume the person you're talking with knows something you don't.
I never assumed.
Well, I mean, if you're going to start a conversation, it's basically saying, like, hear them out, right? Like, see what they have to say. They might know something you don't. Now, if they prove themselves
they might,
wrong,
but I don't assume it. It has to emerge in the conversation. But I suffer from low. Like I have a problem with intellectual humility. It's very hard for me.
Gotcha. Well, at least you can acknowledge it, right? Now, if you can't do that, also like another thing people can do more often is, if they're not going to assume that someone else might know something, they can at least be more willing to say, "I don't know," about themselves, right? Like, I remember I had a friend in college, he said to me, "I don't know why people can't just say I don't know more often, like why that is so painful for them." And I thought about it and I said, he's right. Really, people really seem to hate saying I don't know, unless like it's like something at work and the boss is trying to put them as like, do you know what happened here? It's like, I don't know, right? But if it's a question where like they feel like to have an answer makes them important, they don't want to say I don't know, even if they really don't know. No, I do know. Here's the answer.
Yeah,
Like, what happens
there-
after we die?
I don't know. Sometimes I'll give it my best guess, but I don't
Yeah.
have a problem when I don't know something admitting it.
Like, and that's the thing. Like, what happens after we die? I don't know. A lot of people.
Well,
just,
actually, I do know that.
Well, I know what Keanu Reeves said about it. But like what it would be like for me after I die. I can't really say that.
Thing. You're not going to experience anything. It's going to be like you were never here. You won't notice a thing. What did Keanu say about it?
He said, and he was asked this by Stephen Colbert on the Late Show, but he said, I know that the ones who love us will miss us. That's what he said.
Oh, I don't even know that. I mean, I don't even count on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't count on other people doing things.
I mean,
like
I'm not
that
going to
either.
know anyway. I'm not going to be around. But I've seen death touch people's lives, and they eventually do move on. Like they don't sit there and weep eternally at somebody's grave.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, generally people do move on, and they continue celebrating. The party goes on without you. And but there are other things too. It's like, is there a God? Perfectly fine to say I don't know, but a lot of people feel like they need to have an answer. Or what was the proper response to COVID? I don't know, but a lot of people don't want to say that.
I think we did decent. It was an
I mean,
unknown virus. We kept.
Well,
the
yeah, like you
spread
said, it was an unknown
as
virus,
much
right?
as we
So
could until we got
there was a
more
lot of I don't know to it. Am I back?
Do
Am
what?
I back?
Huh?
It looked like I popped up. Okay, yeah. For some reason, like my stream thing had to reset for what I got like the wheels.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
get those too sometimes.
But yeah, like with COVID, like you said, it was an unknown virus, right? So there was a lot of I don't know when it happens, right? But a lot of people didn't want to do that. A lot of people, even though, like you said, it was an unknown virus, wanted to think that they completely understood the nature of this virus and what the correct response was. And it was a thing people did, Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative. And I just looked at that and I thought, this is really weird that these people who probably haven't thought about biology since high school think they're experts on this shit. And they know how to determine if the CDC is evil or not based on this. I mean, but yeah, it's
That's the kind of conspiracy stuff I'm talking about. And if you're saying it's associated with IDW, that's exactly what I'm trying to minimize in my life.
Yeah, so there are some folks like that who get into IDW. I think there were certain conversations about COVID and vaccines and lockdowns and stuff that were maybe worth having that kind of got shut down in a knee-jerk way. Because here's what happens, right? Maybe you're not a conspiracy theorist, but because you're just interested in maybe questioning some things about whatever lockdown policy might have been, people might think that you are, and then they might ban you or censor you or kick you off of something because of that, right? And then you just think, well, I just wanted to learn more about the topic. And that might have been the person's only interest there. I use the term IDW very broadly. It includes a lot of different people with different levels of different politics, different levels of competence, different I guess motivations or backgrounds. Because the thrust of the idea is just it's a space to have open dialogue in a civil manner. So we don't.
Civil is very subjective, and different cultures have different standards of civility, if they have them at all.
That's right. We're from the South, so it's very different from, say, the North or the West Coast.
Yeah. And I've been in groups where I think I'm being perfectly civil, but I'm not meeting their standards of civility, and they consider me not being civil. And so I get nervous when I hear words like civil or polite as a requirement for group participation, because someone civil is going to be somebody else's uncivil. And so I just tend to assume positive intent unless I have a reason not to, instead of trying to police people and force them into a standard that may not be theirs.
Right. And that's sort of like, what I do as well. Like, so like a common thing people will get reported for in the subreddit, for example, is like willfully mischaracterizing someone, and you're not allowed to do that. Like, we have a rule against that. But we realize that like the willful part needs to be very clear. So like a good example is
how can you tell?
Right. Well, so sometimes, again, it's not as common that this happens, but some people do try it. It's like, let's say this would not be an actual discussion, but let's say your position is blue is the best color, right? And then while responding to you, somebody alleges that you said red is the best color, and then they quote the paragraph where you said that, but they edit out the word blue with the word red to make it look like you're supporting red, right? Now, as a moderator, I can look at the original post, and then I can look at what they changed, and I can see how it might have been tampered with. And at that point, it has to be willful mischaracterization, because how else would they get red there when the guy clearly wrote blue? So
I can mischaracterize all the time. I just tell people that's not what I said.
Right, and so what often gets people reported is somebody just didn't understand what they said. They looked at something, they thought they were saying this, and they replied in that manner. And they're like, "Oh, you willfully mischaracterized me." And it's like, no, they just didn't get what you said. Maybe you expressed it poorly. Maybe they were just kind of dumb. But like, it's not like they were maliciously trying to like slander you by willfully mischaracterizing, right? And so, we very rarely get people in trouble for that kind of rule in the subreddit, because it's usually people never really go that far to doing it. It's just when people eventually do it, we want to make it clear to folks that like, no, you can't do that. You'll get banned if you do that. And so civil doesn't necessarily mean that there aren't growing pains in the conversation. Like I remember the very first podcast discussion between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris was just, it didn't go over well. They talked past each other. They really had a hard time getting on the same page. And then they did another episode and it was more productive. They understood each other better. And while it was uncomfortable, there were even points where I remember I could sense Sam losing his patience with Jordan a bit. It remains civil. So civil isn't always pleasant. Civil isn't always what makes you feel like you're in a kumbaya circle, right? And I think there are connotations where when people hear civil, they think nobody's feelings can be hurt, and everyone has to feel good about it. It has to be, we're like all a bunch of peaceful hippies, and that's not necessarily it.
White people think.
Yeah. And I don't look at it like that. Like civil is like even people who are being civil can just have unpleasant moments. It's just as much as I'll go into it at that point, I guess.
I never think about civility in my conversation. I don't care if civility's there or not. I never think, oh, am I being civil? Is this person being civil? It's just never a consideration for me.
Disruptive trolls are being uncivil.
And if they make sense, then I'm okay with them.
I kind of have to be more mindful of it when I ultimately state it as like a standard, but like at the same time, it's if you're naturally disposed, I think, to respecting other people, you don't really have to think about it that much, right? Now, in my interactions with you, Jeff, you don't really behave in a way that really like it doesn't seem your tendency to be uncivil. So maybe you're not thinking about it, but I also don't sense that you would typically do something that way anyway. And it's like I don't have to think about not murdering someone, right? Because
Right.
murderous action isn't something that just naturally occurs to me. It does naturally occur to some people, but not me. And maybe that's part of what's going on with you as well.
Well, that's not a unanimous impression. I've been in very, very many situations, at least for insanity of it.
Well, yeah, you've told me about a few of them before, like stuff at work, and like again, I've had similar things where, like for example, my last job, part of the work culture there is that people will use a lot of smileys and emotes in the way they message folks. Now, me, that's not really a big part of how I use text. So, like the way I express myself is I'll usually. Like if I think something's funny, I'll write, LOL. Maybe if I really want to emphasize that I think it's funny, I'll write it in all caps. But I don't usually use the laughing emote, right? I don't use the smiling emote a lot. Basically, never touch because there's so many now. Usually, I just write what I think. Now, when you're like about the only person at that workplace regularly using the chat. On a day-to-day basis, not using emotes. The way a lot of people there ended up taking it was like, wow, Joe is mad. Joe is mean to me. Why does Joe talk to me like this? And if you just read the things I say, they're very plain things. Like there's just nothing to them. But there's this perception in their head like, oh, Joe wasn't being civil. It's a hostile work environment.
Is this a male workplace or female workplace?
It's about 50-50. Although I do think a lot of those complaints tended to come from females. Naturally, of course, the problem with that type of work environment is people can file complaints, right? They don't, for the protection of the complainer, you never really find out who it is unless like the specifics of it make it obvious. And so,
well, do you get to see the complaint? Because I had a complaint follow me. In fact, I got fired. They told me who it was, but they never let me see the actual complaint. So
sometimes I don't see the complaint. Sometimes I just get told, "Oh."
I kept demanding to see the complaint. Like if I'm going to be disciplined over this, I want to see what the complaint was, and they never would show it to me.
I didn't always get things. There's just like I've been told things like this, or it's just I've got complaints about things that I just know didn't happen, right? Like I got a complaint about like I was saying that I wanted somebody's job, like who was a manager, right? I never said that. What are they talking about? Like it's like telling me like, Joe, we have a complaint that your skin is green. What? My skin isn't green. It's never been green. What kind of complaint is this? It's just it's Fantasyland stuff sometimes. So it's like, yeah, I don't know sometimes like, and the problem is like, people just, I don't think workplaces these days are, a lot of them are just very easy to create problem with complaints.
I was in an online forum one time and I got, I had to leave it eventually. They accused me of yelling at everybody. This is in text. And it wasn't even all caps. So I don't know where they got that from. But that
yelling
kind of stuff. Like they say yelling in text.
This sounds like my job. Yeah, that I had. And then the funny part is like too. It's like Joe, why don't you want to go to the work socials? And it's like, why do you think? Because like people read things into my behavior.
Yeah.
Like you look at someone without smiling, maybe you just have a plain expression on your face. Maybe just like this, right? Joe was so mad at me. He didn't smile back. Do you know what that does to my anxiety? I mean,
I tell people all the time, not to go off my body language, but they think they're such experts at reading it.
Like sometimes when people walk by me, like I'm exhausted. Like I'm just, maybe I had a long day or just like a really difficult like call or something that I just got done with, and I'm barely even aware that like somebody just greeted me. So I'm not like, oh hi, how you doing to my coworker. I might be like, oh yeah, and it's like Joe is so mad at me. Joe, we got a word that you're just not fitting in well with folks. Just I never actually had that said to me, but like it's just the kind of way it would be taken.
Cultural fit, they call it. That's how I lost
Yeah.
my first job after a whole year of being there.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where so like I totally get like why you get concerned about things like that. And it's one of those things where like
It's two reasons. I've seen it used against me, like abused and used against me, and it's totally irrelevant to any conversation that I've ever had. It's like an external concern or standard or value that other people hold that means nothing to me. So it's a foreign expectation. Like I don't. It's like if you go to another country and they have this weird rule or expectation that you've never seen before. You have to somehow start adapting yourself to it. I'd rather just be free of that.
Yeah, and so it's like
If someone doesn't want to have a
of
conversation, they're free to end it or leave or whatever. I don't want to talk to anybody that doesn't want to talk to me. So I believe that adults can determine and navigate their own conversations without a third party intervening and micromanaging it.
yeah. Well, and I think like with any value that we discuss, right? It's always something where we know where the nucleus is, but the borders can be harder to define, and the borders of a value are where people can get into unfortunate situations and face consequences that they don't deserve. So like another good one is like honesty, right? Now some people, if you say we value honesty here or we do things based on honesty, some people can get nervous based on that because then they might think, well, what does that mean, right? And so if you are really bad at expressing yourself, right? You just don't know the right words for things, and then you say something that's inaccurate. Are people going to accuse you of being dishonest then, right? If you don't compulsively tell the truth about everything, right? Are you dishonest then? If you don't go out of your way to correct people over a minor detail, then are you going to be dishonest then? Similarly, if the other way is like if people do that in a way to be like an asshole, like correct you over a little thing that's not important, are they going to hide behind like, well, I'm just being honest, right? And so there's always something like that. There's always a version where a stated value can go awry. And it's the kind of thing where you just got to hope the people making decisions have common sense, and either they do or they don't.
Yeah, that's why I don't usually put myself under other people.
Yeah,
people who try to correct me don't normally fare well. Like I'm a grown adult. The time to raise me is past. The last thing people want to do is step into some kind of parental role with me. That's very dark territory.
I notice a lot of people like to do that. A lot of people like to give you advice on things, even when it's not needed. I would just do this. In fact, I almost wonder.
I think in their minds they're being helpful, but it's absolutely the wrong approach with me.
Yeah, and like with that thing in the investing server about the joke I made about Bumble stock, right? I suspect part of why he directed me to the relationships thread is because he wanted to give me advice about relationships and dating so that he could feel important. Because I notice people like to do that too. In fact, I've noticed that like if people find out that I'm single, they really seem to like giving me advice on dating. And I'm just thinking, like, what do you really know about that's going to be useful for advice for me, you know? And, you know, advice always has to be specific to a person. Like with the investing thing, like people give advice. It's like, what kind of investments do you need? Like a lot of people think I'm crazy for liking to buy individual companies, one, and two, companies that pay pretty high dividend yields. A dividend yield is just what percentage of that stock price is paid out as a dividend within a year. So if you have a $10 stock and it pays a $1 dividend in a year, whether it's one distribution or maybe it's broken up into 4 distributions, so 25 cents every quarter, adds up to $1 each year. Doesn't matter how much they break up the distribution. If it within 1 year, that owning that share earns you $1 of cash flow from the dividend, that yield is 10% on $10. If the price goes up to $20, it's a 5% yield. $1 divided by 20 is 5%. So now, since most of those folks like funds, they are usually like investing in funds in the context of saving for retirement. So they're not just investing in funds, but they're making the assumption that if somebody's investing, they're doing it for retirement. They're not trying to have that money later. And so I'm not trying to have that money sooner than retirement, which for investment accounts in the United States is at least 59.5. That's when you can take money out of an investment account without a early withdrawal penalty by the IRS. So of course, some people may retire way after that, but me, I was trying to get something that could provide me a passive income through the dividends at a high enough yield that it would meet some of my living costs for basically right now, so that I could have that financial cushion. Right now, to them, and I could go more into some of the details of like things that are considered when people make investments, like tax consequences and how overall returns are affected. But the bottom line is like a lot of people that really wanted to argue with me, give me advice about like, here's why dividends don't matter. And I was basically saying, look, you haven't even begun to like see like, why do I value the dividend? Like, what's my situation? What am I trying to do? I don't care about what you're saying. Like, you're not saying anything specific to me. You're just, regurgitating advice that is good for you. And then when other people show up, you give them the same response I did. And a lot of people like to give advice. And here's the thing. Sometimes people are doing it to feel smart. And sometimes people actually do think they're being helpful. And they're so eager to be helpful that they don't actually stop and think like, is this actually helpful?
Yeah, I think people try to help in their own way.
Yeah. And so like when I give people advice on things, I'll always make it very specific to like them. And I'll ask questions. Consequently, some people have told me that like even if I have no experience with something, I at least can break the logic down of like what their decisions are in a way that it helps them maybe think through their issue better. And so like a good example is like if you want to go into dating, for example, I have a friend who has been dating an asshole, right? And so I said, well, if you stay with him or like you continue to do this, he has no reason to change. As far as he's concerned, his approach to dating is successful. Like his strategy of being an asshole in the relationship works because you either don't break up with him, or when you say you break up with him, you get back with him the next day. So your words don't mean anything to him. He has no reason to fear anything. Now, and then I say, but if you're happy to have that kind of relationship, if that's your idea of a life well lived, then do it. Right? I don't say, oh, you need to break his ass, girl. You need to find yourself a good man. I don't do that, right? I simply lay it out. Here's the cause and effect. If you actually like this relationship, if it's worth it to continue being this cycle of frustration where you break up, get back together, and it's just you're a high schooler the rest of your life, do it. Some people might actually want to do that, and I'm not going to tell you not to like it.
Yeah, I mean that is true. There are some people that's just like it's what even if they may not even realize that they're doing it on purpose, but that is what they want.
I think even if they realize, a lot of them don't want to admit it because it'll make them seem
I think
stupid.
there are more people in dysfunctional relationships than healthy ones, and for some reason they want that, especially the codependent ones.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the trolls that we see on these streams, I have no idea why people would want these people on their streams, but they give them hours and hours and hours and hours of time at the expense of everyone else's experience.
Yeah, and so like I showed you, like I had to like pop open that one guy's replies in that from the investing server, right? After a few replies where he was just clearly had his head up his own ass, I just added him to my block list, and I said I'm not going to bother like reading his replies anymore because clearly he's just not going to engage with me properly, and it's just easy decision at that point. And like you said, I know what I want, and I know that like if I just reply to him and give him more attention, what's he going to keep doing? He's just going to keep replying. He's going to do it with me, and he's going to do it with other people. So the only way I can take steam out of that engine is if I stop feeding into it, right? And I have to be the person to say, oh, I'm just going to stop and not worry about getting the last word in or anything like that.
Yeah,
That's actually what I tell people in the subreddit a lot. Like, what do you mean? He said something so stupid and I needed to call him out. And I'm like, look, this is the IDW. This is where you get to talk about things that you want to talk about and have interesting conversations with folks. Like, why would you waste your time talking with someone that you clearly think is an idiot? Like, there's a whole subreddit of people who are going to have more interesting things to say, who are going to challenge your mind, and they're in the same post even. You could reply to them, and you could have a more fulfilling conversation with them, but you're agonizing over arguing with the idiot. And, like, a lot of folks that have a hard time seeing that right away.
It's so easy to get sucked into that, though. I've even got caught in it.
No, I've done it before as well. Like, I've been on the internet a long time.
You get engaged and you get that rush. It's hard to break out of it.
Yeah, and people are, and then when I tell people like that, they're like, "What? We're not allowed to have debates?" And I'm like, if you're compulsively looking here for a debate, whatever the topic is, because you have this debate hard on, no, that's not allowed because that's not a real conversation. Now, if you're talking with someone, and in the course of a back and forth, you disagree about something and you want to bring it up and sort of cut through it a bit, I mean, that's fine, right? But like, I remember one time I was talking to somebody, this was years ago. It was so weird to me. He was like, say he wanted to he was trying to debate me on something. And I'm like, why are you trying to debate me on this? I don't actually think this. You did this whole response, like point for point for point, dismantling an argument that I didn't even make. And you just thought I made it. Like, this isn't my real opinion. And then their response was, well, what is your real opinion on this then? Because I would love to debate that. And I'm like, what? You don't even know what I think, but you know that you're ready to debate it? That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's just odd.
I think for some people, that's how they engage. That's their
Well, that guy in particular was a bit earlier in the IDW's history, and I think when it had more connotations with like individuals like Eric Weinstein and Jordan Peterson, like directly, and he was just there to argue against anything IDW. So he was just working the assumption that whatever I say is just going to be an IDW talking point, and he's ready to argue against it. And he was interpreting anything I said, however much it was reaching to do so, in that way. And I basically said, like, dude, cut it out. This is fucking annoying, right? Like, just have a normal conversation with me. Ask me questions. What do you think, Joe? Right? Not, I have to dismantle the IDW talking point that's clearly baked into what you said. Like,
what is IDW now? You said back when it was Eric Weinstein stuff. Has it?
Well, so like earlier on, it had more of an immediate like connotation with like folks like Eric Weinstein and Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris and stuff, because they were regularly appearing on each other's podcasts and stuff, just appearance after appearance like that. So a lot of what people thought about were like the things that they had discussed recently, the points that they had made recently. Since then, once they stopped doing podcasts together, some of them even fell out a bit. It got more to the very general idea, as it was initially coined, of just being this space for open dialogue. It's actually easier now to have a lot of conversations because people aren't showing up to like make a post talking about why Eric Weinstein's an idiot or Jordan Peterson's an idiot or something like that. People just talk about the topics now, finally.
They still do it in Paul's server. Are there new figures that have taken the place of Eric and him, or has it just become more generalized?
Well, I think that's part of what helped is like as the idea was given time to flourish a bit, there are more people that rose up and definitely seemed IDW, even if they weren't part of that initial group that coincided with the coining of the term. And so, good example is Lex Friedman. Like Lex Friedman was not a figure when the term was coined. He became more prominent like a couple years afterward. John McWhorter was such a person who became more prominent afterward. Same with Coleman Hughes. I would say that the Rebel Wisdom podcast popped up later. They're no longer active. And then I would even say folks like Paul as sort of like a fledgling YouTuber kind of fits into that. Who's somebody like, if I didn't know him, if I wasn't like encouraging him to share content in the IDW, and he just, let's say a couple years down the road had developed a bigger YouTube following, probably somebody in our community would have shared his videos and said, hey, this guy's good. Another example is like somebody who's like IDW, more I think like on less on the culture war stuff is like Jonathan Pajot. He was sort of a name that, he was a name that he's been discussed a lot in the subreddit. Not so much lately.
Isn't he like a right-wing orthodox? All my ortho friends are into him.
I think he appeals more to the right on things, but from what I've seen of him, like a lot of his stuff isn't like that. Maybe it's just what I've looked at, because again, I look at a lot of these like 2 or 3 things by these folks, and then I just move on to the next thing often. And so it's their name. It's kind of a revolving door, right? Like it's a web, right? Then it's a community. It's a concept. You can go in and out of it as much as if you like. Like I would say probably the folks who really lost their association with it was like Dave Rubin within pretty short time, like within about, I would say, a year and a half. Most folks like in the community didn't really think much of him anymore, just because he became so obviously like partisan, and what he was doing was very just clearly intended to help his business rather than just having interesting conversations that he pretty much everybody just didn't really feel good about him anymore. And I would say Ben Shapiro kind of went down a similar path. Like he was always partisan, but it's just so he was never quite as popular as a lot of the other folks. And then with the way he's developed the Daily Wire, I think he's just become more partisan, and he's less of a person who interacts with people who think differently than himself. And he does have some moments here and there. So that's an example. When Jordan Peterson has also like become more aligned with Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire, and maybe just some of the impacts on his mental health after the whole like coma thing have changed him. He's not as powerful as a figure and as regarded as he was before either. So people can rise and fall in the IDW on their own merits, and I think that's to be expected going forward.
Well, I hope this community takes off.
Yeah, I do too. Especially since I've put so much into it at this point, but also because obviously I've spent so much time doing it because I sense there's some sort of need to fill, and it's just one that doesn't organically fill itself unless you have like the right type of tool to do it. And I'm hoping that making a charitable organization is that tool. If not, I don't know what else could.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of trying to build a bit of a network too, just amongst like the as like a streaming network type of thing. To I guess it's probably not
Streaming
not-
community.
streaming
Yeah, well, I
community.
mean, I would say like essentially what you guys do, like the concept, the IDW, like it fits into that. And I would say like, because Paul shares his content in our subreddit. I even gave him a flare to denote like I created a flare just for this called IDW Content Creator.
That's. Go ahead, but I remember what I was going to talk to you about. It was that.
Okay, yeah. So when Paul shared, I've even pinned his posts a couple times. So like when he posts there, like he has the flare, and then other users can see that he's not just some like slimy spammer who's showing up to the server like uninvited just to link drop his stuff. And I've done that for some other folks, some of like some Substack writers who've made consistently good contributions. Went ahead and gave them the flare. Yeah. Realistically, like I think if you're regularly doing streams and they're covering the kind of things that people find interesting to talk about in the IDW, which it's as open ended as the concept is, it's a lot of topics.
How do we share in the Reddit without just being because I don't use the Reddit, but I think that it would. I at least want the audience to know that we're out here. For those that are
Okay,
interested.
sure.
So what's the best way to introduce them to us without like being an unknown newcomer in the community?
Right. So, I mean, I'll just tell you what the formal rule is on sharing your own content. So right now under Rule 7, we do reorder the rules periodically. So I don't know if this will always be 7, but no merchandising. Sharing your own content is fine, but do not actively try to sell things here. Exceptions can be made when relevant and with moderator approval. So more lenient than a lot of other subreddits. Like you couldn't even begin to do that in those. Now we do only allow text posts. So, and if we look at the other
kind of
rule,
post?
text posts. So a link post.
So
yeah,
like don't put a link to the video.
Well, yeah. So you can't even do a link post. So it's like it's a rule, but it's also not something that you can technically break because the link post feature is turned off. So you can only do it as a text post. And if people were to click it, it would just open up your post and they would just see a URL sitting there rather than take you to wherever the link goes. But it does say there as well, only text posts are allowed. They must contain serious discussion of any linked content or will be removed. So when content creators share their stuff, they can link to whatever they're sharing, but they have to talk about it in a way that they're trying to encourage the community to participate rather than just a simple link drop. So as long as people do that every time they share their content, that's fine. That's what Paul does. The American Dreaming Substack, that's what they do.
Links to videos, or he can't put what? How do you let people know about your channel?
Let me just find examples of what Paul has posted before,
Okay.
and that'll probably make it easier to show. Yeah. So where is it? Okay, here's something he did recently. So. Wait, no, that's not. That's actually just a Reddit post. So he has his own flare as a user. So every time he posts, it's going to have this flare with him.
Okay.
But let me find. Is this one? Is it? Is this?
Because they show up as headlines, and then people click the headlines that sound interesting, I guess.
Yeah, so here's like an example of, I'm going to just put it in Discord so that like it'll be easier to see. Now where should I put it? I will put it in share your work. That's basically it. All right, so if you look at share your work, that's a post that Paul made. You can see there at the top, he has the IDW content creator flare that appears next to his name wherever he posts. And if you look there, he basically discusses the topic, and then he put it at the bottom. The URL doesn't have to be at the bottom, but he put the link there.
A link to, is that his video?
Yeah, that's his video. So that's a link to his channel.
So you can put links if they're part of a larger post.
Yeah. Yeah, the standard for Reddit is when you make a post, it actually is a post that links to something else, like an article or a video or something like that. And then you could also make a text post where you basically like make a thread, and your post is the OP of the thread. So we have it so that link posts aren't even on. You make a text post, and then you can include a URL in that text post. But if you look there at that screen clip, Paul's clearly like, contributing to, like, he's starting a discussion while sharing his thing. Some people might just post the link and not even discuss anything, or they'll like write 2 or 3 sentences and barely say anything, right? And post their link. Paul's making an effort here. He's raising some points. He's giving something to chew on. If not everyone's going to click the link, so there's still room for people to reply. So it's a way for him to share his content, promote himself, but he's making the effort to contribute to the conversation. As long as content creators do that and they're consistently, doing good content, I'm going to give them the flair, and that way, when the community sees it, they can know that they're not some just sort of like spammer who's like flooding Reddit with his content. They know that he's somebody who is acknowledged by the subreddit, and it makes it easier, I think, for him to get good reception when people see his posts.
Okay. So we could do something like that. And, I'm going out of town next week, but when I get back, I still want to do a Zoom meeting for the local.
Okay. Well, if you're going out of town next week, did you want to go ahead and like put like an invitation post that you can have up together, like maybe have like a Google form or whatever for people to fill out? Like,
I was just gonna put the you think it's okay to put the link, like no spammers are gonna show up?
I don't think very many spammers or trolls would show up if you did that, honestly.
Because I was just gonna like pick a.
That might be even better. I'm
Is
doing
it better
this
to pick a time on my own, or try to coordinate a time with people?
Pick a time on your own, and if you start now and do it out far enough, anyone who wants to show up, like the people who filled out that poll, I'm sure at least some of them will make time for it.
Because I'm gonna get with Aiken and coordinate with him, because I at least want him there because he's local. But I'm actually gonna be out of town for almost a couple of weeks, so it might be better to do it when I get back, or like do it a week before I get back or something, because I think 2 weeks out is going to be too long.
Gotcha. Yeah, that might be because then you're creeping up on Thanksgiving.
So I can do it after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you can do that, and then that aside, like that being more specific to the IDW community, the organization, right? As you do your own streams, just like Gen X Jeff stream.
Because that's what these streams are trying to do too, is build some kind of community. We're using the stream to build community.
Yeah, and like
so they're not really specifically.
I could even see value. It's like, what's that thing that you do? Like, it's like the weekly like men's talk or whatever.
Oh yeah, my men's group.
Yeah, I could see value in that even being shared in the IDW, because like
I didn't even think about it.
Because like I've seen like so many posts over the years, even this year, about like the male loneliness epidemic and things like that, and it's just
that's what it is. It's the antidote to that is a supportive community for men.
Yeah, and it's like I'm
trying to.
There's definitely people in that subreddit who would like it and benefit from it, and then anyone who wants to respond to it with hate, I'll just ban them.
Okay, well maybe I'll because that's every Monday, so I'll start maybe with that post.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how to do a post for the stream, and then I'll do a Zoom post when I get back.
Yeah. But no, it's like I always want to be able to use the subreddit to facilitate things that people are going to do, where they will take ownership of it, where they will have skin in the game. Because the thing I've always just liked about being a moderator is that my main tool that I can pull out is punishment, right? I can remove your content, I can ban you, and that can move things in a certain way, but not as well as being able to reward people or lift people up.
Yeah, it's going to move me right out of the sub if you ever try that.
Yeah, and I only punish people like and I try to be very clear, like, here are the rules, here's the context in which we are okay with punishing people, and then it's not even going to be a permanent ban. Like, this is why we did it this time. Please don't, do it again. You get 2 more shots. I'm amazed to see how much people on Reddit just will instantly permanently ban people, and they won't like try to break it down.
That's
like,
one
well, here's
reason
what,
I use Reddit.
yeah. Like, so when we do that, when people are like, "What? How is this a rule violation?" We say, "This is why. This is." I know the rest of Reddit people just do whatever, but this is what we try to do in our subreddit. So next time you run into a person like this, just ignore them. There's somebody else that's a better conversation for you. Just talk to them instead. And if that other person is so bad, next time just report them. And if they're breaking the rules, we'll deal with them. Rather than be like, haha, take that, Nazi. You can't post in our sub anymore. Although we do ban neo-Nazis. We have done that.
I don't take them seriously.
Yeah, well, but Reddit does. So if we do tolerate them, they'll wipe out our subreddit. So there's no reason for us to risk it. Let's see. What StreamYard it says at the bottom here, having issues. How did they know I was having issues?
Oh, well, it's asking you, and I click it and nothing happens. So, oh wait, there's a little chat box. I've never used that before. Because usually the issues are with my connection, not really.
Let's see, chat with us. Sure. Okay. So yeah. What's my issue? I need to tell StreamYard. So I'm very lonely.
Don't you were okay? Like it was a voluntary. Like you were. What is it? A vol cell?
I mean, I'm just a guy who is single. Like, I don't know that there's much to it. I'm just a guy who is single. So I wouldn't say I'm a vol cell. Like, I've been using dating apps. Like I was like I mentioned in that other thing. I've been using Bumble, for example, lately. I don't use them often. I only tried doing it the last couple of weeks, but like, I don't go out and try to get laid, right? Like a lot of young men do or have done. I've never tried to do that. Maybe I'm vol cell in that sense. But at the same time, it's like, if I had an opportunity to date someone, like if it's just something that naturally presented myself and the reality of me being in a relationship with someone was completely dependent on whether I say yes or no, whether I'm flipping a switch, then I would probably, I'd flip it into the yes position, right? So the fact that I am single right now and the things that are entailed with that's just celibacy, are a consequence of the fact that I just haven't encountered that opportunity. And obviously my failure to encounter an opportunity isn't something I choose to do.
But are you putting yourself in situations for those opportunities to happen?
Well, I mean, I don't know, like, because it depends on what are those situations. So, in general, like I find with just socializing, right? If we look at this as like a broader function of socializing, I do, make efforts to try to interact with folks, like coworkers and stuff, and like I'll text them, I'll call them, I'll see how they're doing, and then it's just I don't always get a lot of responses from folks. Historically, if I try to make plans with folks, a lot of people don't want to do it. If they do actually agree to a time and place for something, whatever we're doing, like going to a movie, seeing dinner, there's a very good chance that they'll flake out. Something will just happen.
Oh my God! Is that generational or cultural? Because that's weird to me.
I think it's just whether or not people like you in some ways. So, I think because I've just noticed that like other people don't have trouble making plans. Like people are regularly doing stuff with their friends every Friday and Saturday. Huh?
They just don't want to make plans with you.
Right. And it's like, and then of course, like, well, how do you change that? Right. So if you're putting yourself in situations where these things can happen, like, you can put yourself in those situations. How do you become the person where they want to,
Well, you
reward
don't,
you for?
because then you're on the treadmill of constantly having to be a certain thing to
Well,
do
that's the
things.
thing, right?
Just find the people that already want to make plans with you.
Well, there you go, right? And so it just depends on where those people are. And so so part of this, making plans and this stuff, dating is a subset of that. And so just as things have naturally occurred throughout my life, I'm just a guy who just happens to be single. I have not encountered the person who's going to naturally want to buy what I have for sale at Joe Incorporated. And that's kind of why I said what I did in that that thing I mentioned earlier about the Bumble. And I said, people either like you or they don't. And as you navigate through life, you'll either run into such a person or you won't. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Now, navigating through life, what does that mean? Are you putting yourselves in situations? Are you a kind of person who learns from mistakes and grows and improves? Let's give people the benefit of the doubt and assume most people do that, right? Nobody's obligated to say reward them for what they do. Like, for example, male loneliness epidemic, right? Not you're a gay man, Jeff, but a lot of this I think entails straight men, and straight men finding a lot of women don't necessarily want them or spend time with them, date them, marry them, whatever. A lot of women are in various ways telling men no. And it's a natural consequence of the way we evolved, even progressed socially, right? Women have more rights, women have more independence and autonomy. And so what this means is that they'll tell men no a lot more. Or they just won't even be there in the first place to tell them that. They won't even give them a chance to be asked, right? And so the interesting thing about that is the male loneliness epidemic is largely generational, right? It's generations Y and Z for the most part. Interestingly, these are the most feminist men, arguably, who have ever lived. They're so women wanted more rights, they wanted more equality, they wanted more respect. These are the two generations that will give it to them in levels like no generation of men before, and yet those are the men that are lonely. Those are the men that aren't wanted by women. The men who are more sexist on average, and it's a spectrum of things that you can consider sexist, right? Those are the men that have less of a hard time, or they're not as lonely, and they haven't lived their lives as lonely. They had more prolific sex lives. The sexual revolution occurred with a generation of men that maybe they were more feminist than the men before them, but more than likely were less so than men that have been born since then. And so it's just an interesting thing, right? And so you might think, well, why does this occur? It doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense when you think about it, like what's actually happening at the big picture. We created these positive incentives. Why are there negative things happening? And the simple answer is that people aren't obligated to respond in a way that you think makes sense. They're just going to do what they feel like. And what they feel like might be totally ass backwards, but that's just what people do.
Is there an IDW presence where you are? Like, are there options to form an IDW community and maybe socialize through that?
Potentially. So as I've been working on this charitable organization, right, I've made some efforts to try and see who's in the area that could be similar. Right now, my best leads for that is just stuff that's been happening on the university. So living in Chapel Hill, I'm, the University of North Carolina is right on my my front porch, basically. I can go there whenever I like. And there's so many events going on hosted by so many groups, and there's a lot of potential allies, people young and old. So there's definitely potential there. I don't know how great it is, but it is a starting point. And then, from there, if I can meet the right people and just get a snowball rolling, I can start to look at people who aren't just as fixated on the university, the campus itself, but people who are thinking more broadly to things in Chapel Hill, the Triangle metropolitan area, and so on from there. So That's how I'm looking at it right now. And, we'll see who's there, what potential is there, and whether that professional potential, opportunities for maybe some friends who are worth spending time with, maybe even romantic potential. Because I remember, like my older sister was telling me, like how different society is today. Is like it used to be in the day that the way people would like meet someone. She was talking about dating. It's like it's at you meet someone at school, at work, at church, or your friends through your friends, right? Your friends will like help set you up or something, right? Or like, but what happens now?
If you're out and about too.
Right, yeah, but like, what happens now? Like, well, a lot of workplaces are more hostile, right? They do a lot of this diversity and inclusion stuff that doesn't really make people feel included. It has people on their toes all the time. So people are afraid to interact with their coworkers more, right? Like it's more likely now that something that happens outside of work could threaten your job. So work is not a great place to socialize. A lot of people are less religious, even if they're not atheists. Religion's just not as important anymore. So their church isn't really a major community resource for them as much. A lot of people are, in fact, resentful of churches just because they had bad experiences with them growing up.
Making plans either or going.
What's that?
I said apparently they're not making plans either or going out.
Yeah, and so and then with school, the tricky thing with school is once you graduate college, that's a social resource you don't really have anymore. So that was kind of always the case. And then meeting people through friends. People don't settle down as much anymore. People don't have as long-term or as local lasting friend groups. Like the fact that we're here on Discord and talking, it's kind of, I think, reflective of that trend. It's not like we couldn't still do this and have active interpersonal lives with people we can physically meet. But a lot of people here are here as an alternative to that. Like if I had a girlfriend right now, would I probably be here? No, I'd probably be doing boyfriend-girlfriend things with her. Or at least more often, right? And even if I did have a girlfriend, if she called me into the bedroom right now, would I probably go in there? Yeah, I'd be like, "Bye, Jeff. Bye, Chris." I like you guys, but fuck you, right? It's just, and so, when people are moving around more, when people have more gig jobs, right? They work for company A for 5 years. Out of Tallahassee, and then they go over to Houston for another 5 years, right? And they're playing the game, right? That's what recruiters and career counselors and other folks like that like to call it. You got to know how to play the game. Playing the game, right? If you're good at that uproots you and it moves you around a lot. And so you don't have a friend group, and you're not going to get introduced to folks as much. And so all these things are occurring simultaneously. And the consequence is that it gets a lot trickier to have the kind of social relationships that used to arise just naturally. Arguably, all the forces that led to this were positive, right? There are improvements, right? Right, capitalism is good. It creates efficiencies, right? The internet is good. It's expanding communication. It's connecting people. But there's also these really weird things occurring simultaneously that are the opposite. That are like the proof that we're going the other direction. And so, I don't really know what the immediate solution is. It's like, and if you want to change it, you'd have to like be very diligent about it and like do something that you can trust would patiently get you results. But a lot of the advice people give is like, oh, well, just put yourself out there, right? It's just putting yourself out there gets you a smaller return on your investment these days than it used to.
It doesn't sound like there's much of an out there to put yourself though,
right?
Because all the places that you named have changed, right?
So like the out there used to be like this, and so you're putting yourself into this. Now the out there is this, so you put yourself here, and it's a lot. Like I said, there's not as much of an out there anymore, so you're not going to get as much. Um, like even dating apps, right? Like dating apps make it easier for some people to find dates. It removed some barriers to it, but it also makes it so that like some people can basically never get dates because they just will never get matched. Or even if they do get matched, no one will agree to go on a date with them.
We had one of our regulars on here. They thought that it was actually it was at this point that it was actually the way that the dating world had gotten. Like the guys that are willing to actually just approach women in public are much more likely to be successful these days than they've ever have been before, in his opinion. But I mean,
I've heard people say that. I think it's like I think a consequence of the Me Too movement is that men are much less likely to approach women, and so the men who actually do that in public. Me Too movement also coinciding with dating apps. People are just much more likely to open a dating app than go up to ask people out anymore. And now me, I was never one to really ask people out much because for me, there are some people just some guys will just ask pretty much any girl out that just seems like a minimally positive prospect, right? Oh, I could see myself dating her. I'll ask her out, right? Whereas me, I would only ask somebody out unless if I really believe that they're going to say yes. Like, and if I feel like that's not like, if I feel like with the clues I've been given up to that point, that they're not interested, and it's just I'm probably just going to annoy them with the question, that I just wouldn't bother asking.
Yeah, I was like that too. Of course, later on, I learned later on, and I learned that there were several girls that I was interested in that I found out years later. It's like, oh yeah, they were totally into me, but I had no luck at understanding signals at all. So
that's not been the case with me. It's like I think what often happens to guys is like there are women who will actively like go out of their way to spend time with them and put themselves in front of them, and then that guy's like, oh wow, why is she so nice to me, right? She probably isn't attracted to me, and it's just like the classic like male cluelessness, but like that's not been my experience. I haven't since found out, oh yeah, all these girls from high school and college like me. That's not been a revelation for me. It's so for me, like I know when people want to spend time with me and value my company, like it's not too hard to tell that apart. And then if there's at least that, then you can have some reason to think, well, if I ask this person out, like the one girlfriend I had, like, I mean, she basically, she warmed up to me and I could see it, and I could see it pretty much the moment it happened, because it started like when another woman talked me up in front of her. While
how old were you?
28.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing there. It's just when another woman was just, and she wasn't like trying to set me up or anything. She just really liked me. She's like, oh, this is Joe. Joe, tell her about this. And she was like, Joe, you got to tell her about all the cool things you do. And I literally was just sitting there. I didn't even know I was about to be introduced to somebody. But like, it's just when you have the vote of confidence from another woman, right? Like that. And that's like the first impression, that can help. And that's why I actually ended up dating one time, is because it was like, here's the thing I noticed with a lot of guys too, is when they ask a girl out, a lot of times they don't even really need to ask a girl out. Like, it's just, she's kind of already put herself there. And at this point, it's like, it's not even, hey, do you want to go out with me? But it's, hey, do you want to keep doing things with me? It's almost like the question is really that. And they just, the girl just kind of moves into becoming his girlfriend. That's kind of what happened with me that time.
Did you asked her out, or she asked you out?
I did not ask her out. So, so the context in which we met was at work. So she was a new hire, and she was getting introduced to folks. And the person who introduced her was our boss. and our boss really liked me. So that's why she gave me that praising introduction. And after about working there for a month, I ended up asking her if she wanted to hang out. And mind you, I was asking all my coworkers this. I had decided I wanted to just hang out with my coworkers more. I'd asked a lot of people this. So I asked her to do something that I had asked other men and women there. I was not specifically asking her on a date, but she was more than happy to take me up on the offer and just keep doing things with me. And after, a few instances, we were dating. I mean, it's pretty much that simple.
Okay. And how long did that one last?
A little over 2 months.
Oh, what happened?
She realized she didn't like dating me. So we broke up.
Okay.
Yeah, we just weren't a match.
That's kind of what dating is, especially if it's casual. You trying to figure out if it's the person you want to date.
Yeah, and it's just how it is. And so I do think that with the manner in which I was introduced was very influential. I don't imagine that we would have dated at all if that hadn't happened, right? And so, but yeah, like you said, like the purpose of dating is to kind of figure that out, and then as soon as you figure it out, that's when you break up. And now, some people, of course, we just talked about. Some people cannot do that, and they find themselves breaking up, but not really, and sticking in relationships that they just hate, and it's just a constant drama fest. But I didn't do that. I just said, okay, it's okay to just let this one go and move forward.
Well, I think that shows a lot of maturity on your part. Was that your only experience?
That was my only experience. It's the first time, and I'm just like, okay, I know this is my first time, and I don't know if I will ever get this chance again, but I'm like, clearly, this is not working out. She does not want this. I just need to go ahead and break up.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're just kind of waiting for the next organic
Yeah. So
encounter to happen.
Pretty much. However, that's going to happen again. They're going to tricky because, like we just said, the normal grounds for doing that don't really exist. So what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to go out and do things with people more. I'm like, folks who seem more inclined to want to spend time with me, I'm trying to actually make sure we're more actively going out and doing things. My hope is that by doing that, I can just be in more social situations, and then from there, naturally, I can meet someone. Especially I thought, well, since it was a female friend, right, that kind of, we'll say, nominated me for a relationship the first time, right? That's not a bad thing to try and replicate. So let's say there's a girl that I think is attractive, right? But she's dating somebody, right? Well, there's a decent chance that she has a friend that I would probably also think is attractive, or someone worth dating, right? So I can still become her friend, show that I'm good at being a friend with a woman. Show that women can comfortably be a friend around me, right? And then just sort of let that speak for itself. And
is that what they're looking for, though? Do you run the risk of staying in the friend zone?
I mean, I don't really think that's a risk. I think if you're going to date someone, you're basically going to be their friend, but you're just going to do some extra things with it. And
no, but women have this particular, they see friends one way, and they see potential romantic partners a different way.
I know some women do that. I don't think. I'm just not worried about that. And I feel like the moment I begin to worry about that, I just become one of those whiners. Oh, I'm in the friend zone. And
honestly, in my experience, and I've talked to many women about this, since it's not even. It's usually a lie. The friend zone thing is almost exclusively a lie. It's just because they're not that attracted to them. They just use it as an excuse to what's that?
I wish we had Emerald here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, but
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
like
so-
my wife and like other girls I've spoken to, you know, that I've been friends with since I've been married and stuff. They've also the same thing. They're like, yeah, there's
I grew up around women, and a lot of my friends were women, so I would
Yeah.
hear the conversations, and I know that women definitely have a category for guys that they like as friends but would never date, and then guys that they would date. And so if you show yourself to be too much in the friend category, they may not consider you for the other
I
It
mean,
is, but it's because they're not attracted to you at that point. It's because
yeah, my feeling is that like that they were probably just never attracted to me, and I don't know that I could have changed that, because I mean it depends on whatever they feel like they want to date, right? And you just may not fit that, even if you were the best version of yourself, right? You may not fit that, and so like you know, for me, like the only thing I feel like I can really do is just show that I'm a person of integrity, that I'm pleasant to be around, that I'm dependable, you know, a good friend. And because I think when my friend did that to my ex-girlfriend, you know, but in the way she introduced me, right, like that is kind of like what made the difference there. And so I do know that there's like this class of women who like to collect men, and we'll say, and keep a lot of them as friends, because they like to surround themselves with men. But you know, there's only ever going to be like one guy that they actually want to date, and then they want to just sort of hold on to the other men as friends. And sometimes they're keeping them as backups in case like the relationship with their main man goes awry.
Oh,
That's a certain type of woman that does that. You know, maybe it's a woman with like security issues, or maybe she has daddy issues, so she needs to collect all the men. I've known women like this. I was friends with such a woman, in fact, but I don't think that's, you know, I would not build my whole dating strategy to the extent that I even have one. I don't really feel like I do much. I would not build my dating strategy around that specific type of woman.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Don't.
Yeah. So like me, again, my whole thing is like, one, I do just want to go out and socialize more. So I want to have positive experiences with friends, right? So it's just, I want to do something that I'm already inclined to do that would just be more fun in general if I was just going out and doing things with friends more. And then I'm just simply working on the logical assumption that like if there's any romantic opportunities that are going to come out, it would be through something like that, where people get to see me being friendly and fun and kind and dependable, and draw their own conclusions from there. And if doing that and it doesn't work out for me, then I'm not sure what else I could really do that's much better at this point.
No, I think you're doing the right thing. That's in my opinion, that's the best possible way. I think like not only will they get a chance to see you like that, then you get a chance to see them the way they are with people too, and you could just, I mean, guess, you know, you have just as much reason to be vetting women as they had to be vetting you.
Yeah, like I mean, I would not date any woman blindly, and it's just like sometimes it's an interesting thing I'll notice that some women will do. Like, let's say, you know, looking at a profile on a dating app, you know, and a woman's telling me like someone that's coming up on my phone, and she'll be telling me like her opinion, like, oh, she's wonderful or she's beautiful, and you know, there'll be a detail on there that I'll be like, no, I don't think she's for me or whatever. It's like, why? And I'll be like, oh, I mean, these are all pictures that are like clearly just on her face, and trying to like hide the shape of her body, and so I'm guessing that she's probably overweight and she's trying to hide this. And I only have so many swipes that I'm allowed to do with a free account, so am I going to waste one on her? No. And it's like, oh, you know, you don't know that, Joe, or she's beautiful anyway. And I'm like, look, shut up, just give me advice that's helpful to me. I get it. Oh, I got to stand up for my fellow woman, but like, she's not even here. Quit trying to defend her, right? She should date somebody, if she is fat, she should date somebody who likes to date a fat person. There are those men, I've met them. Like, there's some men who literally will just, hey, I don't care, it's all woman to me, but I'm just not one of those people.
That's fair. I mean, I didn't know that they limited swipes on those things. I had no idea they did that.
Some of them do. Like Tinder, you can swipe as much as you want until you literally like run out of people in the queue. But like Bumble and Hinge, if you use the free accounts, they limit how much you can do each day, and so you yeah, you might never get a match if you like, well, at least a match that you want if you don't use some discrimination, right? So you gotta like look for the clues, like what's something you want to say no on, you know. Some people have like tried to like again, this is an interesting thing that women do. Like, well, what kind of matching preferences are you doing? And they're like about like the age range or whatever. They're like, and like, what do you mean? You're like, so I'm 32, right? Like, I don't include women who are 32 in my age range on my filter. I have it at the highest set at 30. And the reason being is just because I want a woman who's somewhat younger than I am, so that depending on how long we like date before we actually settle down, we have a reasonable amount of time to basically have as many children as we want if we eventually settle down. And the younger a woman is, the more we have time as a resource to do that. I'm not going to lose my fertility in my 30s and 40s, so I don't really have to worry about that as much. But I know it's a thing I have to think about if I'm just thinking forward in time.
I
Right.
was 40 when I had mine.
And I'm aware that it can still happen. I'm just saying, like, what dice do I want to roll, right? Do I want to roll dice where 5 out of 6 are winners, or do I want to roll dice where 2 out of 6 are winners? It's just, you can still win on the 2 out of 6, but it's just what dice do I want to roll?
I mean, that is just the reality of dating apps, I guess, in general. That's the I don't think I could honestly recommend that anybody ever really use dating apps like seriously.
Yeah.
I think they're toxic. Freaking like, I don't know. I just like the entire everything they encourage. It seems like they encourage all the worst impulses in people.
Yeah, they do, and it's like there's definitely just some gross things I see on there. Like there's like a category you can select called ethical non-monogamy, and they're just
Oh, yeah.
like, what?
Oh,
And I'm like, yeah. Sometimes I'll put that, but they'll like, and I'm kind of bugged that I even know what the acronym ENM means now, right? Because it's like ethical non-monogamy. Like, okay, I get it. If you're gonna sleep around with folks, at least be honest and transparent about it with like the people involved. But I feel like it's just an attempt to formalize it and dress it up as to being like as sincere and disciplined as like committing to an individual person. So it's just
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, everybody's welcome to have their own things. I do see that monogamy, for the most part, has utility in society, and therefore it's probably, for the most part, it's very probably preferable to non-monogamy in most cases. But but people are gonna do what they're gonna do, I guess. Whatever. I don't know. I mostly dating apps, like. And it's weird. I really thought the internet was going to be the way that people were going to be able to, like. I met my wife on MySpace. I mean, it's not like I'm against like meeting people online.
yeah.
But it's just like the way the dating apps work, especially the way Tinder changed that whole thing into like the swiping thing. I think it's really an unhealthy mentality. I think it's just like it's almost metastasized into like a mental cancer in a lot of
Yeah.
cases.
I mean, it really isn't great because like a big part of what like you have to use to like make a determination is like, what are they trying to communicate in this picture, right? It's not just do I think they look good, but like what are they doing in the picture that I have to make all these judgments about them without even talking to them, right?
Especially when
And-
everything about the friend group pictures, those are the ones that I think are really bizarre. The only picture they have is a picture of like 4 people, and like it's like a roulette. I guess you just kind of got to guess which one it is. You're even like,
Oh yeah, I don't like it when the main picture is like their friend group. I'm like, okay, so which of these people are they? And then you have to like go to the next one before you can say like, oh, it's that person. Okay, I would have thought it was this person actually, right? It's just like the picture is centered on somebody else or whatever.
I've seen profiles like whenever I was doing research on those things on those dating apps. I've seen profiles where people like where women would have multiple pictures of just like them with friends, and it was
Like at a
like, and it wasn't even like and it was almost impossible even to. I mean, like it was just like literally like I guess you can pretty much just guess it's the ugliest one because like who else is
I
going to do
have
that?
seen some profiles like that. I have seen some profiles like that. Yeah.
Like it's like a trick. They're hoping that you're gonna hope it's the pretty one or whatever, and then like, you'll swipe on them, something like that. It seems like, but then you could swipe right on them, and they probably still wouldn't necessarily swipe because like they all have like it's like the whole dating thing they show, like the 10% of men get like 90% of all the women or whatever it is, like that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, like people. It used to be, like I said, I met her on MySpace, but like at the same time, like I mean, I still remember what it was like to meet people in real life, and it is really very difficult to meet people in real life anymore. That is very true. But you used to be able to go to a concert or like something like that was like a shared cultural event type thing, like that was something that you knew that like if a girl or a guy was at that show, you had a pretty good chance that at least you had one thing in common, right? At least you liked that band, right? But that's it seemed like that. Going to concerts, like I see me and Leslie go to concerts together. We see the way people are. People are not open to socializing. They're all closed off. Like it's like, I mean, you try to just just have casual conversation, not even trying to hit anybody, just like saying hi, and people like get all like weird and like act like you're.
No, you're absolutely right. So like I regularly like go to my local Starbucks. It's the one where I worked, so I still know some of the people who work there. Some of my customers from when I worked there still know me and will talk with me. So I'll have a lot of interactions there. And now the customers, like the one I'm talking about, like they're like much older than I am. So they're like people in their like 50s and 60s a lot. But I'll chat with them. And then like, it's interesting because, as time goes on, more of the baristas who worked there when I was there leave and new ones come in. And so they kind of, the newer ones have to get like familiar with me, and they gradually learn that like I used to work there, and I get more comfortable with me. But like some of the customers who are like I never really got to know as well, mostly the college students who like, because when I worked there it was 2019, 2020. So some people have gone to college, graduated, and left in that time, and there's like a new slew of people, right? So let's say I was going to just strike up a conversation with a girl there. Kind of like you said, like it would just be really odd nowadays to just go up to a total stranger and engage in friendly conversation, even when you're in public. And yeah, it's interesting how that works sometimes. It's like you would need a very specific reason to just start talking to somebody kind of just out of the blue like that and not have it like get a weird reaction.
Yeah, especially if you're like just like a single guy, or like me and like her together, like we talk to somebody, like I think they immediately like think like, oh, they're trying to like get someone for a threesome. You can just see that look in their face, like you can just tell that's what they're thinking. They give you this look, like it's like no matter what interaction you have with them, it must have a sexual connotation. It couldn't be anything else, And like, which on one hand speaks to a lot of people's like I think their general like sense of. I guess they must think something of themselves to think they're automatically.
Here's another crazy thing too, right? A lot of the people will be like, "Oh, this guy, he's coming on to me, right? God, like, why is he doing this? Why can't men just leave me alone? When I'm at a cafe, right?" So basically, that's what you're saying. The thought process could be. Yeah. That said, some of the people who think that. There are also people who are terribly lonely. Oh, I want a boyfriend. I want a husband. Why doesn't anybody love me? When the moment comes along, oh, why is this guy talking to me? It's just, people don't make sense.
Someone said that it goes by attraction. Like if you're attractive, they don't think that.
It could be, right? But it could also just be people just, they're in one mood. They're one way, one moment. It's just dependent on their mood, right? Maybe you are attractive, but they're just not in the mood for that, right? They don't want to.
I've noticed this in entitlement. Like I don't know if it's generational or cultural, or regional, but this entitlement to not be interacted with in public.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Like
And
that
again,
wouldn't in the South at all. Everybody talks to everybody.
yeah, and what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and so, but like, you know, a lot of people, um, will do that, and then some women might be like, well, where are all the men? How come men don't ask women out anymore? Like, again, I've you know heard some women complain about this before, and you know, there are things men do where they'll be like, why does this happen? And then when they're actually faced with decisions, they do the opposite. Like, it's just human beings do this in general. Of course, but I don't feel the consequences of that because I'm a man and I'm not gay. So, and I'm also not a woman. So, things like, I think some of it is just if people were more mindful and they thought more about like here's where I am, here's what I'm doing. Like me, I don't necessarily like to be approached by random people, right? I too feel suspicious. Usually I think they're going to ask me for money. But if someone does come up and talk to me, like, I also think I'm in public, so that means people will come up and talk to me sometimes, and I don't immediately write people off when they try to do that. No, I'm mindful about, like, I made a decision to be here. I made a decision to share this public space with other people who are going to be in the Starbucks lobby. You know, that is what it is. But other people don't look at it that way.
I've never been anywhere until I moved up here where the expectation was that you would not be talked to in public. In fact, when I moved here, my ex told me, one of the first things he told me was, don't talk to people here. And I said, what do you mean? He said, like, if you're standing in line in the grocery store, don't talk to people. And that was the weirdest thing I couldn't process what he was telling me. I kept saying, what do you mean? I don't understand what you're telling me. Don't talk to people. I can't even compute what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And after living up here, he means don't talk to people. Like, do not try to talk to people when you're out in public. That's the social norm here. But that's weird to me.
No, I agree. It is weird. I mean, I think it's weird in general for like human beings, social animals that they are, to behave that way. Like we have mouths, you know, we have the ability to speak. It's weird that we would, like, especially in an explicitly public area, have that kind of norm. Like, I can get it in, like,
adults. Like,
library.
I'll talk to whoever I want. And if they want me talking to them, they can just tell me, don't talk to me. Or
No, I
walk away or
agree.
something. I don't need like a social rule around it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, and you know, maybe in a library or something like that, it would make more sense to have that kind of rule. I get it. But
I remember people saying things like that a good place to pick up women is the grocery store, and I always thought that was really weird. I would feel really uncomfortable going up to a woman and approaching them.
Hey, you got some produce.
Well, growing up, that was one of the places that you're supposed to meet people. It was at the grocery store.
yeah, that's how like all the Hallmark
vegetables
I've never
together.
met anyone at the grocery store before, so I guess that's why I think that's weird.
That's not true.
I just know that was like you'd see it in
Okay.
sitcoms and movies.
We
Women
meet,
would
we
meet at the
meet
grocery
people
store.
because of the baby in the grocery store. But we don't. It's not like we meet them and like become friends with them. They just people want to come up and talk to the baby. You know, that's a little different, Lindsay. Yeah, I mean, people. If you have a baby, people definitely will approach you. Especially if you have a cute baby, man.
Especially if you're a man. Chris wears the
Yeah,
baby
if
on a sling.
if I was single with her and like I could definitely meet women. At the
You'd have
grocery
a
store.
harem.
Yeah, I could go out to the grocery store and I could probably walk out with a lot of.
Get you a dog. I've heard that works too. Walk a dog.
I don't
You
like
have your
that.
Maybe not in the
dog.
grocery
Yeah,
store
no
though.
practice.
I find it annoying when people take their dogs in the grocery store.
Well, you're not to the grocery store. I'm just saying, having a
I know.
dog with you.
I'm just joking, dude.
It's
Just
the
joking.
same way as a baby. It's a hook.
I don't know, and I guess but I suppose there are like if you like artsy type people or artsy type girls or something like that, you probably have better luck going to like that that we watched that Meow Wolf thing yesterday. Like there's a few of those places around the country. I bet if you go to one of those places, you probably have a good chance of finding some artsy girls. You finally or like a art gallery type of places like that.
Hmm.
It's really exposing yourself to as many people as you can.
Without catching COVID.
Are you really worried about that still?
Or you might catch
No,
COVID.
I was never worried about it. I was never worried. Oh, I mean, not at least not any more than just getting a common infectious disease like a cold or whatever. Like, we're gonna get these things. We can't not be sick.
Yeah, I'm traveling next week. I fully expect to catch something on the way there, on the way back.
And I'm not even sure if I ever got COVID. Like, it was
I got it really early on. I got it like before it became a pandemic.
like I had like a cold or something like at the beginning of this year, and that was like the first time I'd been sick in over 3 years. So like, what's funny is when I started dating my first girlfriend, we started dating in February of 2020, and again because this was my first relationship, and
Is
I
that
really
the
had
2 month one?
yeah, that was the 2 month one.
You got dated during lockdown.
Exactly, during the peak of the lockdown. And because again, I was new to it and I had really no idea of like the right way to progress things, we didn't actually kiss until March. Like literally like right at the peak of the lockdown. And like Chapel Hill was like a ghost town at night. I was taking her like back to her car so she could go home. And but I ended up giving her like a kiss in the parking lot. And it was just pitch black. Like, the lockdown was so intense that half the city wasn't even lit up. It was the darkest and quietest I'd ever seen Chapel Hill. And there was like nobody in sight. Everybody's like hiding, not just in their homes, but probably in their cellars and stuff. It's just,
Came here to Seattle with a ghost town.
and while everybody is social distancing and afraid to like touch their cousins and stuff, here I am having my first kiss. It was funny.
Isn't that is Chapel Hill near? It's North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
Is that near Winston-Salem?
We're about 90 minutes east of that along Interstate 40.
I almost went to school there. I got accepted to the North Carolina School of Arts, School of Filmmaking, and couldn't afford it. But, yeah. I was in school there. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Maybe Jeff.
So while everyone else was locked down, I had my first experience smooching and getting touchy-feely. No social distancing for me. At least until we broke up. That was some pretty heavy social distancing.
Were you locked down by yourself?
What do you mean?
Were you locked down by, like, were you the only one in your house?
Well, I live in a duplex apartment, but yeah, I'm the only like occupant of my unit. So it was just me living alone, and then I had her over a lot when we were hanging out.
And then you weren't anymore. So
Exactly. But again, like even in general, I'm usually just doing stuff on my own at my apartment, lockdown or no lockdown. Which is why I go out to Starbucks more because
I go on lockdown.
yeah, I go out to Starbucks a lot more because I'm like, at least I'll run into some familiar faces. So we'll see how that goes.
Maybe they'll send us something.
And it's like, and then I just try to be friendly and helpful to folks. They're like, oh yeah, I can teach you about stocks and investments. You always feel free to sit down and ask. You know, it's part of my charity work anyway, so I don't resent, a request if anyone wants to learn about it. And if you're nice to people, maybe they'll introduce you to their hot sister. Who knows?
You can teach stocks or something like through either the community college or some people like counties have community education programs, sometimes through the school district, sometimes through the community college, sometimes through Parks and Recreation. But there's potential to like put yourself out there in that capacity, and that might connect.
There's that. I've thought about like utilizing the Chapel Hill Library for stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna evaluate that more as we get to the new year. But those are things I've definitely considered. You do have to be careful in the way that you approach educating on finance and investing. How you represent yourself. for like legal purposes, but it's really tragic how much regulation there is with financing and investing. That is just, I say it's unnecessary in the sense that there are so many things in finance that actually aren't that helpful. That exist, that we need to have all these rules and restrictions just for those things that are there that we could just do without. Like most people don't need somebody to manage their investments. Like people hire someone to manage their investments who will just put it in some mutual funds. And the mutual fund is the investment management. So you might as well just buy the mutual fund yourself and not have an advisor do it for you.
But how do you get this money you keep speaking of? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, you got a job.
You gotta hustle and you gotta penny pinch, and for me it's a lot of delayed gratification, like voluntarily living at a poverty level and then putting all your extra savings into your portfolio. And for me, I don't even know if the gratification is delayed. I definitely delayed, but we'll see if the gratification ever comes.
Yeah. No, I know. I used to be fairly financially stable for a long time.
We
I
live in
know.
a capitalist society. Just make
that?
it work for you. So we live in a capitalist world. Learn to make it work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I have never figured it out all that well though.
Job or self-employment.
Well, jobs I've figured out, but I haven't been able to.
But you're limited with jobs right now unless you find something online,
Pretty much, yeah.
which would be more or less be self-employment.
Yep.
And maybe I'll find something, hopefully soon. But yeah, I'm just making jokes anyway. Anyway, what happened to Emerald? Did you check in with her?
Never heard from her. This is a first.
You know what else is a first? Me being here. She's like, Joe's gonna with her.
Oh, with her?
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, Joe's gonna talk over me."
I don't think
Joe's
so.
single. He's gonna hit on me.
Everyone's from. I don't know who's met who or been on with who.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about her. I don't even know if she knows that much about me.
She stays on the stream with Joshua Jones while he's harassing her for over like 2.5 hours. So I don't think she's scared of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking, but
Yeah, I don't think it's because of you. I really don't.
She's going to school for mental health therapists.
oh, okay. Well, no wonder she likes these spaces. And there's all these like crazy lonely men in the IDW.
Yeah, she practiced here. Joshua Jones is her not guinea pig, but her.
That is one thing I like about
mental cadaver.
UNC is they have like free clinics run by the university. They're free
Is
because
it just for the college students or for the public?
no, like members of the community. I've used their medical, mental health, and dental clinics before. I'm trying to actually get it for free. You go in there, they give you stuff. I'm trying to get another tooth cleaning. I'm waiting for them to get
I
back
wonder
to
if
me.
they have anything like that in Dallas, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, UNC is a major university, and they have like a very sophisticated like hospital system.
Yeah, I've heard that
So-
too. There's a
yeah,
lot of
so, like,
medical research.
There's reason for them to have that, so they can basically let their medical students train. So, but I also got to try the mental health and do some free therapy, and it is like pretty much all women that do that. And they've also been like they've been really great as far as just what therapy entails. And it's just nice to. It's the kind of thing that's very nice to have for free.
Did they treat
Well,
you
no, I
for
mean, like,
toxic
I mean,
masculinity?
No, they didn't do that. And the one I was afraid she might like read that into things. Was a pleasant surprise. It just they all took me seriously, and I didn't really have issues. Like for the most part, I just went to those things just to make sure I wasn't going crazy. And the takeaway was pretty much always, you're pretty much like stable and high functioning Joe. I mean, sometimes you're just upset about problems, and it's not because you're crazy, right? Sometimes life just sucks, which I think was essentially the takeaway. All right, that's one thing I've noticed too, though, is like if your life sucks, if you're just having problems that upset you, a lot of people will be like, "Well, have you tried going to therapy?" And it's like, therapy is not going to like, if you step on a nail and there's a nail sticking through your foot, and then you're just upset about it for a while because it hurts. Is therapy gonna fix that? It just you just need your foot to heal and not to step on nails.
Sometimes it can help people get insight into how they're contributing to their misery and
yes,
open up new thought patterns of how to creatively problem solve and start to get out of it.
No, there's some people who need that. But I think some people just say, "Oh, have you tried going to therapy?" Just anytime somebody is sad about their life and they don't really think about again, it's just the whole thing people just giving they're regurgitating the same advice. They went to therapy because they weren't very mindful. They weren't thinking about their own thought patterns and how they're magnifying their own misery. And so therapy helped them. But so let's say since we were talking about dating before, let's just say I was really depressed one day about being single, right? Just really feeling low about it. When I say depressed, I don't mean clinically depressed. I just, feeling low, right? If you don't have any self-destructive habits, right? If you don't become an alcoholic over it, if you're otherwise, eating right and everything, what is a therapist going to recommend that you do at that point, right? At that point, it's just
right.
if you're single,
are not dating.
It'd be amazing if the therapist could be like, "Wow, that's tough. You know what? Let me set you up with Tiffany, and then you won't be lonely anymore, and you'll be happy, and you'll be cured." Right? It's like they're not going to do that. It'd be cool if the therapist could be like, "Yeah, let me treat your chronic singleness. Here's my list of singles. I think you're really going to like Rebecca. She's into dirty blonde guys like you." And so, but that's not how therapy works. Therapy is going to be they're basically going to say, "Oh yeah, that is tough." And
you could start a new dating app called Therapy, and it purposes to be like a mental health app, but it really just matches you with others.
I think there should be one for mental health.
I mean, have you tried going to therapy and then you just start swiping on folks?
Yeah. Well, no, it matches you with a mental health professional that will then match you with someone who has a matching mental illness that will complement your own.
Yes, high five.
In a way that doesn't violate HIPAA and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they can't tell you what it's going to be, but they'll just set you up and be like, "No, trust us." I can't tell you what they are
for that.
It's going to work really well if you're obsessive compulsive disorder. This is going to work out.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm looking at Bumble right now, just to see what's on my feed. This is a thing that a lot of women have on their profiles. My puppy needs a dog dad to bring her to my games. So many women here who are like, my dog needs a dad, my cat needs a dad. I'm just like, why do they all say that?
Yeah,
that kind of gave me a little feeling when I heard it.
Yeah, that makes
wouldn't draw me in at all.
Yeah, that makes me want to run as far away.
They're not looking for a person or a partner. They're looking for a specific role.
But I also feel like
that has utility in their life.
Yeah, and I also wonder, why do they have the pet? Because they're filling the void of a child in their heart, but they don't want to actually commit to the work of being a parent. What's going on here, right? Versus me, I actually do want to be a parent. So, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, my dog is my child. Oh, let me, hey, mom and dad, you want to meet your grand dog?" No, I'm not going to. There's some people who do stuff like that.
Yeah, my sister did shit like that. So
yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, hey, I want to have a child, and you know what? I'd like to get that figured out first, and then we can get a fucking pet. Or here's the thing: I'm a dog person, right? But I want to own a house with a yard so the dog can be in the yard and move around, especially when we're not home because we're fucking working, rather than trap them in some sort of like tiny apartment alone all day without natural sunlight for much of it. It's just people. I really like dogs, but I think people get dogs for all the wrong reasons a lot, and they don't really understand like what the responsibility is of having a dog. And again, they're not getting a dog to have a dog; they're getting a dog because they want to have a child, and they're taking a shortcut to it, and they're doing something that's kind of like it, but in a way that doesn't. It just creates more problems.
I suppose. Now, I don't think this anybody who's using the term dog daddy just seems like that sounds psychotic to me. But I mean, it could be that in their mind, what they're thinking is that, like, I have this dog that I treat like a child. If I find like a man that also will, then I can kind of vet them for actual children, by using this dog. It's like the dog is like this, like kind of like in high school when they get like the sack of flour to take care of as a baby kind of thing.
I guess.
It's like this. Like, I mean, I don't like that. I still wouldn't swipe on that person. But I'm saying I could see how there's like some sort of sick kind of like twisted thought pattern. It's like, well, I want to make sure they can be a good dog daddy before they can be a good real daddy. But I have a feeling you just end up being second place to the dog no matter what you did, though.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, it's just one of those odd things I notice a lot.
Where are you going?
But it's a really common thing. It's almost like it's a fad on dating apps for women to say that. Oh, looking for a dog dad.
I don't know why women would think that would be attractive to men. I can't figure out.
We talk about how women tend to copy each other more. Like we show that video of the children with the legs, and so it only takes a few women to start using it for it to go viral.
Yeah. Holy shit! This lady has muscular legs.
Well,
that makes sense. She's a softball coach.
It's not just a phone app.
She's a softball coach, so she's probably like actually, yeah, like you can pull it up on your browser or whatever. So sometimes that's just easier.
Meet people and network better. Oh, you can network on it too.
Yeah, you can like find business contacts and stuff.
Yeah, Bumble is more than just a dating app. It has like the.
I'm gonna check
when
it out.
when you sign up, you can sign up for a friends thing or a business thing or a dating thing. I think.
Yeah, to put it in investor terms, management is trying to diversify their cash flows to deliver long-term returns for holders of BNBL. I still think Bumble is overpriced, and I would not invest in what is primarily a date.
I don't pay.
Yeah, you gotta. Well, I mean, so
kind of like any real way any of those apps.
I mean, if you I'm not paying for Bumble, but like if I wanted to like get extra like perks or like get more swipes in day, I'd have to pay for a subscription. But I would not pay for it. If somebody wanted to like give me a subscription for like a month, fine. Like, but I'm not going to spend my own money on something like this.
Write it off as a business expense, as a networking.
Ooh, that's one way to get the IDW community in trouble.
Oh. Well, if it's for business networking.
Huh. If I did it for the business account, would that open up the features for all the other ones? That's an interesting question.
I mean, probably, unless it depends on how greedy that company is. I guess the company's super greedy, then I suppose like they're charging separately for each individual type. But it kind of seems like if you're paying for premium, you're probably getting the premium on all fronts.
Probably right about that.
It'd certainly be a better investment than buying Tinder premium or whatever.
Tinder is so different than Bumble. Just the types of women.
That's the one where you swipe.
Oh, you swipe on all of them.
Oh.
They all swipe. I think there's a couple of them that they don't actually use like this. You can swipe, but they don't necessarily have swiping things. But the trashier the trashier the app is, the less the less intuitive the interface becomes, and it becomes like they get really like weird.
The main difference
The
with
gay
Bumble
ones
is,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, the main difference with Bumble is it's structured so that if you match, the woman has to message first. So that's like the main thing that sets them apart.
What is it? What do gay people do?
Oh, they don't have to worry about that. It's the same as like
That
normal.
seems discriminatory or sexist, or it seems retrograde for today's. culture.
Their idea is they want a dating app that is friendlier to women. So their
But
belief is that,
not supposed to be any such thing as a woman.
well, they didn't think that this was like right before the whole trans thing started taking off. Like, so
Oh, so they are outdated. Or
yeah, so
Yeah, kind of. It's also before
No, I-
Me Too and all the other stuff happened too. That came out before Me Too, before the it was I remember them advertising on television. I remember like the ads on TV, like talking
yeah,
about,
and it's like some of the women who come up here are are not actually women; they're trans women, and so like, but they still come up in your feed as though like it's a woman that you would want to swipe on.
Can you filter them out, or you're stuck?
No,
with
they
them?
don't let you filter for trans women.
So
you have to.
Oh my
notice.
god! So you're gonna
You
have
have to
trans
notice.
women in your queue whether you want it or not.
Yeah, because it just says, are you looking for men, women, or both? So if you say I'm looking for women, then trans women will be put in there.
And there's nothing to do about it.
The only thing you do is not is swipe left on them and say no, and hope that you notice that they're trans. Usually they will tell you if they're trans, and usually you can kind of tell just based on their facial features and stuff. Like something seems odd about this lady. Oh, it's not a lady. There we go.
and sometimes people just completely just misgender themselves and like dudes will just put themselves in the woman category. not even
Sometimes
trying.
I think they're like fat fingering their phone when they sign up, and they do that.
Oh,
yeah.
hey, I'm glad to hear your stream went well.
Good. I'm glad it went well.
Did he get the viewers he wanted? Oh, man, I just looked it up. It's already private. He took it down.
He took it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, it looked like he had some good chat. Like earlier, it looked like the chat was going well and everything. And I left.
He was in there. Nero Jack was in there.
Yeah, I left it. I left the tab open running, so he at least it would count extra viewer for him while we were streaming. So I don't know.
We've mostly been talking about dating. Dating
This
advice.
girl's bio says, "Spit
Learning
in my
about-
mouth or leave me alone. I'm tired."
What did she say?
Her bio says, "Spit in my mouth or leave me alone. I'm tired."
I don't think I get it.
Is she
It sounds like
is she from the kink community?
I don't
sounds like a
know.
meme.
Maybe it's a funny way of describing kissing. I don't know.
Spit in my mouth. That sounds like something kink.
It
Either
sounds
that or
like
meme.
Pull my hair, slap.
yeah,
me.
maybe it's a meme I don't know about.
Spit in
Could
my
be
mouth.
that.
But I hope she finds her prince. It's not gonna be me.
Yeah, whatever is her goal here, I hope she meets it. I hope all these people find happiness.
I still can't believe they're putting trans women in your feed.
I can.
The women.
Because the moment that they separate them from women, then they're like, "Oh, you're discriminating against us." Bumble is like transphobic, and it's just they don't want to deal with that.
Not wanting to date a trans person is not transphobic.
I know, but like the activists are going to do that, and Bumble just doesn't want to, go through that. They don't want to like even wait for that to happen. So
I have no respect for that.
no, I don't either.
What was I'm so curious what happened? What was spicy? He had to take it down because of something that came up on the stream. I pay very close attention to stuff like that because I need to know where that edge is for my own purposes.
Yeah, so definitely what you're saying is that YouTube took it down, not that TCPS took it down.
He's just speculating. No, it looks like TCP. He made it private, so it didn't get taken down. It just got
Oof.
made private.
Yeah. No, he did. Okay.
Oh,
I
this is
mean,
tough.
I'm super curious.
what's that?
I'm just thinking out loud.
Oh, you're looking at Bumble still.
Yeah. One of those ones where it's mostly pictures of her face, kind of obscuring her body, and I'm like, so is she overweight
I know
and trying to?
gay people used to do that back in the AOL and Gay.com days. I know all the picture tricks.
Yeah, and so
If it had you suspicious, there's probably a reason.
you're right. And I only have limited swipes, so
Do you only get one photo, or is there a series of photos?
I get to see a series of photos, but they're like all like that.
Yeah, that is very.
And then there was one that showed her like full body, and she seems skinny, but it also looks the oldest of all the pictures. So yeah, it's like
Does
Love
it
it
put
like-
their weight in the stats? Or their
no, it
body
does
type?
not. Oh my god! Can you imagine if a dating app asked you your weight?
The gay ones do. You put your body type: slim,
They don't do that on these. Oh no.
average, large, bear, that type of stuff. You put your
I remember seeing that on a couple of those sites before.
body type,
But
athletic.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure people just lie about it ananyway. And that's the thing. That's the other reason that I don't see there'd be no reason for them to try to separate trans people out from non-trans people because trans people just lie about it anyway.
Yeah.
They see themselves as women, so they're going to put themselves in the woman category no matter what they do. So, I mean,
Right, and
they would just be inviting controversy for no reason.
Yeah, it's true. They would lie about it, and then when called out on,
They
they'd be
would
like, "I'm
say
just
it's not a
passing."
lie. Your perception has not caught up to the new reality, but they're not lying.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love the trash talk. Oh, Jim Bob drama. I went back and watched that thing with Jim Bob. Oh, they interacted. I didn't know they interacted. I thought Jim Bob just watched one of his videos and commented, but they had an actual interaction.
Jim, I'm just another streamer.
Well, I need to catch up next time he's on. And is it an infinite supply of women, or does it end up being the same people over and over after a while?
Eventually, like you'll run out, and like you'll just like you could have no women in your feed, I think, and then they might reset it. I don't really know. Tinder, I think, will reset your feed a lot more.
The gay apps are all the same people. Like there's hardly any new.
Oh yeah, so like I've noticed that sometimes you'll see like the same people. I think if you have Bumble and Hinge at the same time and you have similar search parameters, you're much more likely to see like the same people on those because they're kind of, from what I can tell, Bumble and Hinge are like oriented more toward like long-term market, and Tinder seems to draw more people looking for hookups. It's still the most widely used dating app, but like it's just more hookup concentrated.
Well, there's a place for that too, I guess.
Yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with that.
I wonder if anybody's meeting in person. It's going to be really interesting when I go back home because it's like probably about 10 or 20 years behind the modern age. So I'm going to get to see if the people down there are doing this stuff or if they're still doing it the old way and what that old way is.
I'm making another roll.
It's bedtime, baby girl.
I gotta make a bottle. I'll be right back in a minute, guys.
I do have a like on Bumble, but I have not seen the person who did it come up in my feed yet.
Wait, you got a like, you said?
Yeah, not a match, but a like.
Somebody liked yours, but you don't know who they are?
Right. Like it'll tell you, and then the notification will give you like a blurred like a view of their profile picture. So I have not. And if you swipe left on them, they will disappear and be like, "Oh, you missed a match." Um, and
Do you have to pay to see who they are?
yeah, if you want to see your likes and just to go straight to them, you have to have a subscription.
Oh, but you can kind of tell if they come across your feed.
Yeah.
We need an IDW dating app.
You know, I had like that thought before. I'm like, what if there was a way to like set up IDW people, right? Like, I guess in this, for most practical purposes, it's like women who aren't going to be like hyper political and like freak out over things like, oh my God, are you a secret Nazi? Is this a dog whistle I'm hearing? Kind of thing. I'm amazed at how. Oh,
No,
go ahead.
I was saying, I'm surprised there hasn't been something like that already, but they did try that conservative dating app, right? That Peter Thiel or somebody like hyped up and it never came out, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I remember something like that. I mean, all the conservative social media things are just stupid. Like, just it's where the assholes go to be assholes, like in the name of conservatism.
Yeah, I can't really argue with you there. I don't really know. I mean, even though
I don't know. I see more assholishness from the left. They're just hateful.
I mean-
They're hostile and just ate up with hatred.
Yeah,
leftists have a tendency to pretend to be nice, though.
And they strike out at everything.
Leftists will
I mean,
pretend to be
they're
nice.
the ones beating up Jewish people in the streets right now. I'm more worried about that than Republicans online being assholes or being perceived as assholes.
I think if I was ever able to open my streaming cafe thing, like that open source studio thing, that'd be a great place to meet people. But I can't do it. So I can't open it yet. So
I'm
I loved it.
wondering how. I know that I've seen this even in the bar scene. Local spaces like that seem to have been diminished.
Yeah.
By the internet. I think
I
people
know,
are getting
like,
together
the bar
in person
scene, like
less.
the bar scene downtown Dallas is still hopping pretty much. You just have enough money to
It's still
have much
up.
fun. There's some really nice, cool bars in there too. There's a couple of like arcade bars and stuff where you can go play like arcade games with people, and
They just opened one that was the Sweet Tooth Hotel or something.
I don't know about that one.
Hmm.
I didn't know about that one. There's all sorts of cool like kind of hangout places that aren't like just loud thumping music and stuff like that, and still lots of music venues down there. We used to go hang out there all the time, but of course it's a little more difficult when you got a little one like this. But I'd still take her to shows or something if there were any. But
We took Clover to.
yeah, we used to take Clover. We used to take our other daughter, our now 16-year-old daughter. We used to take her downtown to the shows all the time. She used to have a lot of fun going to concerts.
She's been to like 20 shows.
She's.
I think if you create a large enough community or network, romantic connections can emerge from that. But then it wouldn't hurt to offer a specific option for people to want it to make it easier to home in on what you're looking for.
no, I agree. Wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, I just thought of a way to get. Earlier you said about my therapy idea. You said the thing is you have to figure out a way to avoid the HIPAA thing. The thing is that the person doing the matching is only like a therapist, same like a stripper's a therapist, So they're not really a therapist. There's no mental health profession involved. The people are just giving out their mental disorders. Like
I don't even know if a therapist. You okay?
My sister's dog jumped up on me, and I did not hear him come up because of my headset. And I just suddenly felt him jump on my side, so I had no idea what was happening.
I thought you got a match.
That would be an interesting reaction.
I thought your match was like one of those old YouTube jump scare videos or something, like, you know.
Yeah, no. Well, he might need to go outside. It's just getting late. Hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. What are we talking about?
What? I don't
What
know.
are we talking about?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I'm trying to wrestle this baby right now. She is like she wants this bottle, but she doesn't want to like stay still enough because she knows she'll get sleepy if she.
Oh, you were something dating related. You were.
Oh yeah, I was just joking about that. I was joking about that like the idea of like a dating app called therapy. I was saying that if they weren't.
Oh
Actually
yeah,
there,
I was saying I don't even know how qualified an actual therapist would be to matchmake. I
They
don't know
wouldn't
anything
be. It was a
really
joke.
particular.
It's a terrible idea. That was that was what was funny about it.
They'd have to see the person for years to know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a terrible idea. The idea that you would match someone based on their mental illnesses, it's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that.
Plus, I'm really into adults kind of self-determining, and the tendency is to add that third-party element to help facilitate it
I agree.
for people.
I really agree. I don't like dating apps in general, but that was the joke with that, you know, like that way people could go to therapy and it would be like, you know, it was almost like an idea for like a skit, like a sketch comedy type thing. It wasn't really like a. Yeah. I am really sick of this freaking cold thing I've got though, man. Like my nose is just driving me crazy right now.
Well, you want to end early tonight?
I'm okay. You guys can. I got to run downstairs real fast. I'll be right back.
Okay. I mean,
Watch the baby.
I can go either way.
Well, this was an interesting experience. So yes, every Friday, right? You do the movie stream,
Well, yeah.
but not next week because you'll be on a trip.
That's up in the air. I'm not going to know my schedule once I get there. If as long as there's nothing planned, I can. I'm going to fit it in when I can. But I'm going to try to stream at least once a day. But we stream regularly every day at, I guess, 11 a.m. your time, and like a lot of evenings too, about 8 p.m. your time. But that's why I made a movie channel in the Discord, because we want to start doing more movies. And people are free to use it to show whatever they want as well, and start incorporating some of that into our discussion. So it may move from a specific Friday movie discussion to just a general movie club where we sprinkle it into the kitchen sink type discussions that we have here. But yeah, every Friday, usually 8 p.m. your time. No. Yeah. Is that what time it was? 8?
If it's 5 p.m. Central, then it would be 6 my time. Yeah.
That's what I meant. 6 o'clock with a stream afterwards.
Cool.
This, give us a straw.
All right. Well, if we are wrapping up for the day, I will go ahead. I mean, I'm getting sleepy anyway, so it was good. Watching the movie and then chatting about it afterwards, and then chatting not about it afterwards.
Yeah, every one of our movie streams ends up turning into like one of our dating advice streams. It's what's happened every other time. So I guess this was no different.
Oh, there are
I
dating
think
advice
that's good,
streams?
though.
There are dating advice
well,
streams?
the plan was like me and Chris and Emerald were gonna. That's one reason that I wanted Emerald tonight, because she's good at it. Guys.
And she's a woman, so like her opinion obviously it counts for in ways that your opinions don't. So
and she is in the process of dating now. So she uses the apps, she goes on dates, she has like practical immediate experience of how dating currently works.
oh cool. And it would be good to pick her brain.
And soon, just today, I got a message back from a YouTuber, a TikToker with name that goes by the Dadvocate, and she also does a lot of dating advice stuff, and she's gonna come talk to us at one point. Here.
Well, maybe we can start a little dating panel once a week or something.
Yeah. So,
there you go.
What's that?
I said, well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's gonna be such great content. Anyway, yep. Well, I'm heading out. Look forward to it. You do movie dating advice, other stuff, just feel free to let me know, Jeff and Chris.
Whatever we do, I'll put it on the Discord. So just
Okay.
keep an eye there.
The center holds. The center
Good to
holds.
talk to you.
The center holds.
Not to be confused by the center folds.
Yeah, not.
Man, is
yeah,
she the only one without a cold? She looks.
She
Why?
is not. She has no weakness at all. She is stronger than ever.
She's,
I don't know. I got her to sleep earlier because like she was supposed to be going to sleep earlier. I got her to sleep before the stream started, and then as soon as I went to lay her down, she immediately didn't even like.
yeah,
There was like
she
2
wants
seconds.
her.
She woke up immediately, started screaming, so I had to pick her back up, and she just hasn't even like tired out at all. She's just excited about the kitty cat, and
Here, baby.
I'm okay right now.
No, for her.
Okay, here.
Juniper.
French fry. You're just gonna suck all the cheese off of it.
Can I try it? Here, hold it. I'm giving her a French fry.
Oh,
We're all excited about feeding her because she just got enough chompers now to.
Now she's got enough teeth to actually bite stuff, and she gets it really well too. So there's like nothing. There's pretty much nothing we fed her that she won't eat. She's eaten some
Vegetables.
sushi to some degree, some fish, and like shrimp.
but
And
y'all
stuff
have
like that.
those little. We used to have the teething biscuits, and they were good. Like I even ate them as adults.
Yeah, no, yeah. We still like those are that's what she was having yesterday. That was just so messy. She was like had all over her. They're like the shortbread biscuits. Yeah.
Yeah, those.
Yeah.
Then we had mini raviolis, didn't we?
Yeah, the baby food was not safe around us growing up.
Yeah, but there really isn't, like we have tons of baby food because WIC gives us like we have tons of like bananas and mashed bananas and vegetables stuff like that. But she doesn't like that stuff as much as she just likes like regular food. And as long as she can chew it, doesn't choke on it. We just let her try things. We're trying to make sure like she doesn't get as like Clover got really picky. I think because I don't think we gave her just a diverse enough like a amount of stuff whenever she was younger. So we're trying to make sure Juniper has a more diverse palate before she gets older. Just they kind of get locked into it by the time they get to like 2 or so. They get really picky eaters and stuff like that. So the more diverse stuff you feed them at this age, the more likely they are to eat that kind of stuff later. Is what the experts say. Like I don't know. I don't remember what I was like eating wise when I was a kid. But my mom says I ate everything. So. But Clover's still picky to this day. She's expanded somewhat now, but she's still a very picky eater apparently. Want to say goodnight?
Deep in thought.
Yes, she is.
Well, hello, Juniper, Miss Juniper. Juniper, hey,
Hi, my friend. Hi.
look at her. Wow.
You know she's getting a little tired now. That's a tired face.
Oh,
She's finally starting to wear out a little bit. She's got that glassy look in her eyes.
get some rest, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. She's like, rest. Never.
We'll
I
be
never
here
sleep.
tomorrow too.
She's like, I never sleep. They just think I do.
I'm gonna. What movie did we talk? Oh, Mascot. I'm gonna do the Laurie Anderson thing in the morning. Oh, isn't PF Young's doing his stream? So depending on what time he ends, I'm either gonna do her after our stream or before, and then at some point we can do Mascots, and then we can do an evening stream too.
A nice little like companion film to if you want to watch something that's in the same vein as For Your Consideration Anytime. I also have State and Maine as well. It's another movie. It's very similar. It's about it's a Hollywood satire about a crew making a movie in a small town. David Mamet wrote it. State and Maine. State and Maine. Like state, like a state in the Union, and then and Maine. It's like Maine. Yeah, State and Maine. It's the name of the cross street in this town. It's like it's got Alec Baldwin, Philip Seymour Hoffman, William H. Macy, Sarah Jessica Parker, a ton of people in it. But.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of it. I'm looking it up now.
I might throw it up on the movies channel here next day or so or something if he wants to stop and watch it.
Okay, because yeah, maybe we can watch movies this weekend then.
Sure. Well,
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna take the rest of this little bottle of NyQuil stuff I have and try to go to sleep, I guess. So hopefully this will be gone in the morning. I don't know what good it's to me, but night,
Good
everybody.
night, Juniper.
Night,
Sleep
Jeff.
well.
Night. Bye.
Good night.
I was waiting for the music. Are you gonna play the music
I
out?
know, I forgot what song I played. Hang on, I'm trying to find it. Was it Kurt? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, this one. There might be some streaming going on.
There might be one of those going on. I don't know. Let me know if you find a good one. Thanks.
Good night. Okay, well, that's our stream tonight. We're here tomorrow. And we're doing stuff on the Discord. Movies.